Chapter 1192. At this moment, the seven-star housemaster, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up. "How can we trust you? What if you run away and refuse to let them go?" Lu Ping laughed involuntarily. "I've already said that I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Nine Profound Tower. It's one thing for all of you to be defeated by me, as it was only a personal spar after all. The Nine Profound Tower will naturally not cause trouble for me because of that. However, if I were to kidnap the 8 trigrams housemaster and poison another direct disciple of your sect, then I would truly become enemies with the Nine Profound Tower. I still have a sect behind me, so I would not do such an unwise thing." The seven-star housemaster snorted coldly. "I hope you keep your word. Otherwise, even if you flee to the ends of the earth, the entire Nine Profound Tower will definitely hunt you down. Moreover, the North Sea Jinling sect will definitely be suppressed." With a trace of reluctance, Zhu Jilwan took out the black teapot from before. She turned the lid of the teapot, and 3 people came out of the teapot. They were Qing Bao, ranked 4th among the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, Qing Ke, ranked 7th, and Qing Ho, ranked 8th. The 3 of them clearly did not know what was going on. Their spiritual energy was completely sealed, and they looked battered and exhausted. It was obvious that they had suffered quite a bit after being captured. Qing Hu was about to burst into curses when he saw this, and Qing Hu and Qing Lang's expressions did not look too good either. Fortunately, the 2 of them were still rational, and Qing Lang once again stopped Qing Hu before he could say anything. Lu Ping waved his hand, and a stream of water turned into 3 water blankets that caught the 3 people who had fallen from midair. Only then did the 3 of them see Qing Hu and the other 2, as well as Lu Ping, who was standing in front of them. When they saw Lu Ping, the 3 of them were clearly taken aback. Xiao Qi and Qing Keir's faces flashed with joy, but when they saw Lu Ping's eyes flash with a frightening azure light, Qing Keir jumped in fright. After the trio landed, Qing Hu and the others quickly rushed forward to check on Qing Bao and the others. However, they only saw Lu Ping pointing his finger, and a few rays of purplish-blue light shot into Qing Bao and the others' bodies. Immediately after, their bodies shuddered violently and their cultivation auras burst out from their bodies because they couldn't restrain them in time. The 9 mystical towers' seal on their cultivations instantly shattered. Not far away, the faces of the 7-star pavilion master and Zhu Jilwan sank. It had to be known that the technique they had used to imprison Qing Bao and the other 2 was a secret technique of the 9 Mysteries Tower. Originally, Zhu Jilwan had wanted to have Lu Ping beg them to save some face. Never could he have imagined that their secret technique was not even worth mentioning in front of Lu Ping. Not only did they fail to save face, it seemed like they had been slapped in the face even more painfully, causing the fear they felt towards Lu Ping to grow even deeper. In a forest 25 kilometers away from the Qingming River, the 8 trigrams parlor's master looked at Lu Ping and said in astonishment, "So it's North Sea Water Sword Immortal. I didn't lose unjustly." Lu Ping smiled and said, "I used the fog as a cover to launch a sneak attack. That's why you fell into my trap. Don't take it to heart." After saying that, Lu Ping handed the bottle containing a drop of sweet dew to the 8 trigrams parlor's master and said, "This is the antidote. You just need to spit it on your wound, and the snake venom in your senior brother's body will be neutralized." The 8 trigrams parlor's master took the bottle and looked at Qing Hu and the other 2. Then he cupped his fists at Lu Ping and said, "I'll take my leave now. If we meet again in the future, I'll definitely seek Brother Lu's guidance. May we meet again." After saying that, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared. Qing Hu opened her mouth to say something but was interrupted by Lu Ping, who said, "The 9 Profound Mansions people are already on their way here. It seems like they have some kind of secret technique to communicate with each other. Previously, this 8 trigrams parlor's master was sealed in a spatial artifact by me, so he lost contact with the outside world. That's why the 9 Profound Mansions people couldn't sense him. Now that I've released him, they've already come to meet up with us." Lu Ping's divine sense was far stronger than the 9 Profound Mansions people, so he could sense the 9 Profound Mansions movements before they did. So he released a ray of light and swept everyone away, heading northeast. By the time the 9 Profound Mansions people arrived, Lu Ping and the others had already disappeared without a trace. The 8 trigrams parlor's master smiled bitterly and said, "I've already said that they've already left." The 7-star parlor master signaled him with his eyes to keep quiet. The 8 trigrams parlor master followed the 7-star parlor master's gaze and saw that Zhu Jilwan's expression was very ugly. At this time, Zhu Jilwan finally thought of something and turned around to ask, "Eighth senior brother, did that Lu Tianping leave behind the antidote?" The 8 trigrams parlor master quickly took out the jade bottle that Lu Ping had left for him and gave it to junior brother Su, who was bitten by the green sea snake. Junior Su opened the jade bottle and sniffed it. However, he did not smell anything. After a moment of hesitation, he dripped the drop of dew from the jade bottle onto the wound on his arm. Then, he saw that the cold poison on his arm was quickly dissipating. Junior brother Su immediately relaxed and sighed. "It's a pity that there's only one drop. If there's some left, I can give it to the alchemy grandmasters in the Sex Alchemy Lab to study it. Maybe they can refine the antidote. In the future, when we face the green sea snake, even if we can't completely defeat it, at least we can alleviate the poison." Seeing that junior brother Su's poison had been cured, Zhu Jilwan immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Although this trip was fruitless, at least no one died. After returning to the 9 mystical tower, even if they were ridiculed by others, with the support of her grandaunt, they could at least keep their position as the 9 halls parlor master. However, after hearing junior brother Su's words, Zhu Jilwan still looked at the 8 trigrams parlor master. If they could really bring the antidote back to the Sex Alchemy Lab and develop an antidote for the green sea snake poison, then it would be a pleasant surprise. It was much better than returning empty-handed. She just didn't know if the 8 trigrams parlor master also had the same idea and secretly kept the extra antidote. When the 8 trigrams parlor master saw Zhu Jilwan's gaze, how could he not understand her meaning? He couldn't help but regret following Zhu Jilwan on this trip. However, the 8 trigrams parlor master had seen how Lu Ping gave him the antidote. His heart turned black and he opened his mouth to say, "Well, actually, the antidote is not something else. I saw with my own eyes that little girl spit a mouthful of saliva into the jade bottle." Zhu Jilwan suddenly felt a wave of disgust. Junior brother Su had previously smeared the antidote on his arm and kept sniffing it with his nose. When he heard the 8 trigrams parlor master say that the so-called antidote was just a mouthful of saliva from Lu Linger's mouth, he immediately pointed at the 8 trigrams parlor master and was speechless. His face was red, as if he was about to vomit everything in his stomach. The 8 trigrams parlor master looked at everyone with an innocent face. What he said was not wrong, but in his heart he was already very happy. The 7 stars parlor master shook his head helplessly. The other disciples of the 9 mystical tower also had a strange expression on their faces. Lu Ping and the others flew all the way to a mountain range 1,000 miles away. Only then did they slowly descend from the sky. Turning back to look at Qing Hu and the other 5, Lu Ping asked, "Where are the other 3? Everyone's faces turned gloomy. Qing Hu said, "The other 3 brothers have all fallen." Lu Ping frowned and said, "He's dead? Was it done by the 9 mystical tower?" Qing Hu's face was a little ugly. Just as he was about to say something, Qing Lang, who was beside him, said, "Yes, we discovered an ancient ruin. When we were exploring it, something unexpected happened and alerted the people of the 9 mystical tower. After we left the ruin, we were accidentally discovered by the cultivators of the 9 mystical tower who were searching the mountain. When we broke out of the encirclement, 5th brother, 6th brother, and 9th sister were killed by the people of the 9 mystical tower." Lu Ping glanced at the remorseful Qing Hu. He knew that there was more to this matter than meets the eye. However, Qing Lang was obviously unwilling to talk about it, so Lu Ping naturally wouldn't deliberately ask. He only said, "That means the ruin is near the 9 mystical tower, and it has already been discovered by them?" This time, it was Qing Hu who shook her head and said, "It's impossible for them to have discovered it. The ruin is extremely well hidden, and we were only able to enter it by chance after obtaining a token to enter it. Unfortunately, our cultivation was not high enough, so we only managed to obtain some benefits from the outer perimeter. Who would have thought that we would still alert the people of the 9 mystical tower?" While we were breaking out of the encirclement, 5th brother, 6th brother, and 9th sister were killed by them. Lu Ping asked, "How long ago was this?" Qing Hu thought for a moment, then said, "About 20 to 30 years ago. At that time, only Qing Hu and I had reached the Dharma stage. At that time, the people who tried to kill us were the 2 leaders of the 9 mystical tower. If it wasn't for the fact that the 9 mystical towers cultivators wanted to pry the secret of the ruin from us and let their guard down because they knew that we would not be able to escape, and I had a teleportation charm with me from the ruin, I'm afraid that the remaining 6 of us would have died at their hands." Qing Hu finally found an opportunity to say loudly, "The 2 leaders of the 9 mystical tower are very famous in the world of cultivators, but they are people who deceive the world. When they saw eldest sister and 6th sister, they wanted to violate them." Qing Lang, who was standing at the side, said, "All right, that's enough." Lu Ping furrowed his brows. After that, the battle between Brother Xie and Brother Sang and the 2 leaders of the 9 mystical tower happened. Qing Hu did not expect Lu Ping to know about this, and could not help but blush. "That's right. Originally, I called Brother Xie and Brother Sang along to search for the ruin, but although the 2 leaders of the 9 mystical tower could not find the ruin, they kept a tight watch over the area. When Brother Xie and Brother Sang arrived, they were quickly discovered, and so my 2 brothers decided to teach the 2 leaders a lesson." Qing Hu paused for a moment, then continued, "Fortunately, the 2 leaders of the 9 mystical tower had their own selfish motives. They wanted to take all the benefits from the ruin for themselves, and so they did not inform their own sect. That was why they suffered such a great loss at the hands of Brother Xie and Brother Sang." Lu Ping nodded. He could guess what happened next without needing to be said. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then asked, "Apart from escaping the pursuit of the 9 mystical tower, did you come looking for me in the south for any other reason?" Qing Hu nodded. "That's right, we wanted to ask Master to lend us a hand in exploring the ruin." Even though they already knew that the ruin was near the 9 mystical tower, Qing Hu and the rest still wanted to explore it. Lu Ping was surprised. "This ruin is extremely important to you?" Qing Hu replied, "That's right. Has Master heard of the thieving heaven Laozu?" Chapter 1193. Thieving Heaven Laozu? Lu Ping looked at Qing Hu and the others in surprise. Seeing the 6 nodding, Lu Ping chuckled and opened up a spatial rift, releasing the confused Debao from the Golden House. Debao was thinking about the lab rat left on Huangli Island and was released by Lu Ping from the Golden House. He still had an infatuated expression on his face, causing Qing Hu and the others to look at each other in confusion, not knowing why Lu Ping released this person. Debao was stunned. Then he heard Lu Ping laughing and scolding him, "What are you doing? Are you thinking about your little white again?" Debao reflexively wiped his palm across his mouth and loudly said, "Who would have thought of that? Who would have thought of that? I just thought of a way to fish for spirit stones. I'll put it into practice when I get back to Huangli Island and make a good profit." Saying so, Debao stood at the side with disdain, raising his head higher than his head. But immediately, Debao heard a mocking voice resounding in his ears, "Thieving heaven ancestor." Debao quivered and jumped 3 feet high. His small eyes glimmered as he looked at Lu Ping and Qing Hu's group of 6 and asked impatiently, "Who is talking about thieving heaven Laozu?" Lu Ping smiled and did not say anything. Qing Lang coughed and said, "We found a cave dwelling left behind by thieving heaven Laozu and obtained some things from it." Before Qing Lang finished speaking, Debao had already jumped in front of Qing Lang. It was unknown how his bloated body could become so agile. He grabbed Qing Lang's arm and said, Go to thieving heaven ancestor's cave. You definitely did not take all the treasures inside. Let treasure grandpa bring you to collect more." Qing Hu heard Lu Ping's words and was overjoyed. "How do you know that there are still treasures inside?" Debao turned around and looked at them contemptuously. "Do you know who thieving heaven Laozu is?" Azure Fox and the other 5 looked at each other. Then Debao continued, "The thieving heaven ancestor is the most glorious figure in the history of our rat clan. He was originally just an ordinary spirit-seeking rat, but in the future he grew into a mid-dharma adept and became the famous thieving heaven ancestor in the cultivation world. In the future, our rat clan would become a legendary figure like the thieving heaven ancestor, and we would call ourselves the treasure-seeking rat clan. Every spirit-seeking rat's ultimate goal is to become a treasure-seeking rat. Unfortunately, although we have produced a few geniuses since ancient times, none of them were able to reach the level of the thieving heaven ancestor. The identity of the treasure-seeking rat has always been talked about by our rat clan, but in the end, no one was able to become a treasure-seeking rat. Hearing Debao's explanation, Lu Ping finally understood why Debao kept emphasizing his identity as a treasure-seeking rat after he advanced into the blood condensation realm and refined his hyoid bone. Thieving Heaven Laozu's reputation in the cultivation world was not small, but it was not because he was a powerful great medic. In fact, Thieving Heaven Laozu only became famous after he advanced into the early Dharma stage and the mid-Dharma stage for a few hundred years. After that, he disappeared without a trace. The reason why Thieving Heaven Laozu's reputation was spread to this day was because he could be considered as the #1 thief in the cultivation world. Many of the secret treasures of large and medium-sized sects in the Central Plains had been stolen by him. However, what really made him famous was the rumor that after Thieving Heaven Laozu advanced into the mid-Dharma stage, he successfully sneaked into the inheritance place of a holy land. No one knew what he stole. Thieving Heaven Laozu did not say a word, and the holy land that was robbed did not come forward to refute the rumor. Although there were all kinds of speculations in the cultivation world, and many cultivators related to the Holy Land had asked this question directly. However, some of the high-level cultivators from the Holy Land who obviously knew the inside story would often evade the question when they were asked. It was obvious that they were unwilling to talk about this matter. This made some of the cultivators who originally did not believe in the rumor even more convinced that Thieving Heaven Laozu had indeed entered the inheritance place of a holy land. For a time, Thieving Heaven Laozu was called the #1 thief in the world. Thieving Heaven Laozu's identity as a rat demon was not a secret, but he called himself a treasure-seeking rat. The cultivation world had always thought that he was a hidden and rare demon race. After all, although there were many species of rats, they were all low-level races. There was almost no one who had the potential to advance into the blood condensation stage, let alone a rat like Thieving Heaven Laozu who had pushed his cultivation all the way to the mid-Dharma stage. However, what they did not expect was that Thieving Heaven Laozu himself was actually just a spirit-seeking rat of the lowest level in the cultivation world. And treasure-seeking rat was just an honorific name given to him by the spirit-seeking rat clan, not a race. Debao continued, Thieving Heaven Laozu is known as the #1 thief in the world. He has more than one cave mansion in the cultivation world, and he placed the treasures he collected in these caves. However, it is not so easy to find Thieving Heaven Laozu's things. Even if you find the cave mansion, it is impossible to collect all the things inside. There must be hidden places that have not been discovered yet. What Debao said was not nonsense, because Thieving Heaven Laozu was a figure from nearly 10,000 years ago. However, until now, the cultivation world had publicly discovered more than 10 secret caves of Thieving Heaven Laozu, and each one had more or less a batch of treasures. However, what was truly amazing was that after discovering a Thieving Heaven secret cave, after the treasures inside were collected and taken away, the latecomers would be able to find something that the former couldn't find. Even after several groups of cultivators had discovered the secret caves, the treasures inside were still not completely discovered. It was as if every Thieving Heaven secret cave was a treasure bowl. Even if the treasures inside were not precious, they were endless. The 6 of them naturally knew that the treasures inside the Thieving Heaven secret cave were not completely collected. In fact, after they entered the secret cave, they only collected a few treasures in the periphery. Even so, they were lucky enough to survive the pursuit of 9 Mystical Tower. Azure Fox brought them south to find Lu Tianping. Other than seeking his protection, she also hoped that Lu Ping could lead them to this secret cave. After all, Lu Ping was their nominal master, and his strength and means had reached a height that they admired. Azure Fox exclaimed, "You mean you can collect all the treasures inside the Thieving Heaven secret cave?" Azure Fox knew that although Debao was the weakest among Lu Ping's followers, he was Lu Ping's #1 spirit pet and had an extraordinary relationship with Lu Ping. Moreover, no matter how important Lu Ping's role was, a spirit-seeking mouse that had cultivated to core forging stage should be praised as not easy. Thus, Azure Fox was very respectful towards this seemingly unreliable fatty. Debeo said arrogantly, "Don't forget, after thieving heaven Laozu, I, Debeo, am the top spirit-seeking mouse among the spirit-seeking mice, and even the entire rat demon clan. I don't have the confidence to find all the treasures in thieving heaven Laozu's secret cave, but if I can find more than others, then there will be no problem at all." Azure Fox and the others looked at each other and chose to believe Debeo's words. After all, thieving heaven Laozu was from the spirit-seeking mouse clan. If there was anyone who was most familiar with thieving heaven Laozu, it would be his descendant after all. However, the spirit-seeking mouse clan was a low-rank demon clan. Normally, a blood condensation demon clan was a rare genius. Now that there was a spirit-seeking mouse at core forging stage standing in front of them, who would dare to despise Debeo's authority in the thieving heaven's secret cave? After all, Debeo could be considered as a rare genius in the rat demon clan that only appeared once in 1,000 or even several thousand years. Seeing Debeo's smug face, Lu Ping couldn't stand it anymore. He kicked Debeo's fat butt, coughed, and asked Qing Hu, "How did you find this thieving heaven's treasure?" Qing Hu nodded and said, "How did you find this place?" Azure Fox said, "It can be considered a coincidence. I was just taking a stroll in a market, but I didn't expect to find this." As she spoke, Azure Fox took out a small axe that was about the length of a middle finger. The material of this small axe looked like an ordinary high-grade instrument, but there were a few decorative patterns on the surface of the axe. In fact, this small axe was bought by Azure Fox from a late blood condensation adept. Azure Fox had even exchanged a high-grade instrument with the friar for it. Azure Wolf continued, "Although Big Sister's Xianflower axe is already a top-grade spirit-nurturing instrument, and there is a possibility that it can be upgraded to a spirit-nurturing instrument, but spiritual materials of this quality are extremely hard to find. Now that Big Sister has just entered the mid-Dharma stage, although spirit-nurturing instruments can still be used, they will still restrict Big Sister's abilities. So we wanted to ask for an axe or some other spiritual treasure for Big Sister, but we didn't expect to find a key to the thieving heaven's secret cave." Lu Ping fiddled with the axe in his hand for a moment and said, "This is the high-grade mystic instrument?" "That's him," Azure Wolf said in a rough voice. "Every time thieving Laozu builds a secret cave, he will use the original form of the most precious treasure in the cave to open the cave. Since this small axe is the key, then the most precious treasure in the cave must be an axe. And with thieving Laozu's status, this axe must be a spiritual treasure." "Spiritual treasure? An axe?" Lu Ping and Debeo exclaimed as they suddenly thought of something. Azure Fox knew what they were thinking and nodded. "That's right, it's the spiritual treasure of thieving Laozu. The thieving heaven's godly axe that Laozu has dug up countless treasuries." Chapter 1194. Thieving Divine Axe. Debeo's eyes almost popped out of his eye sockets. His expression was unreadable, and no one knew what he was thinking. If thieving Laozu was the most glorious human of the spirit-seeking mice clan, then the thieving divine axe could be said to be the #1 divine weapon that the spirit-seeking mice clan worshipped. This treasure was only at the level of a Class 1 tribulation spirit treasure, and it was not famous for killing, but for destroying all kinds of protective formations and opening up all kinds of tunnels. However, it was a spirit treasure after all. In the hands of thieving Laozu, it could easily break through formations and rock tunnels. In the hands of others, it might become a killing weapon. However, this treasure was also a must-have for Debeo. The thieving divine axe was almost regarded as the sacred treasure of the spirit-seeking mice clan. Although this treasure was not in the hands of the spirit-seeking mice clan, this did not prevent the spirit-seeking mice clan from regarding the thieving divine axe as their clan's treasure. Seeing Debeo's uncertain expression, Qinghu naturally understood the reason immediately. Lu Ping and Debeo had been together for a long time, so he naturally knew what Debeo was thinking. However, this item was discovered by Qinghu, and with Debeo's current cultivation he naturally could not control a spirit treasure. However, Lu Ping was naturally embarrassed to say these words. In the end, it was Qinghu who smiled and said, "Brother Bao, I naturally know what the thieving divine axe means to you. However, my natal magic treasure cannot survive the thunder tribulation and become a Class 1 tribulation spirit treasure for the time being. Therefore, I would like to ask for the thieving divine axe for the time being. In the future, when Qinghu finds suitable top-grade spiritual materials to upgrade the magic treasure, I will definitely return this thieving divine axe." After hearing Qinghu's words, Qinghu's expression became somewhat ugly. He opened his mouth and said, "Why? This is a treasure that we obtained with great difficulty, and we even sacrificed the lives of little 5, little 6, and little 9. Not only Qinghu, but the rest of the 9 bandits, including Qinghu, were also somewhat unhappy. However, when Qinghu suddenly glanced at them, they realized that the real decision in front of them was not this rat demon, but Lu Tianping, who was standing behind her. He was their master, their savior, and also the person that they relied on to enter the thieving heaven treasure again. In fact, when Qinghu and the 9 bandits came to seek protection from Lu Ping, they had already given the thieving heaven treasure to Lu Ping. Everything found inside and all the distribution rights belonged to Lu Ping as the master. However, at this time, perhaps Lu Ping was not used to the authority of this master, or at least he had to respect the contributions of his subordinates, so he did not say anything. Debao was extremely shrewd, and there was nothing that he did not understand at this point. He immediately smiled and said, "That's not good. After all, the thieving heaven treasure was exchanged with our fellow Taoist lives. Even if Debao is a money grubber, he will not be so greedy." Speaking of this, Debao pondered for a while and said, "How about this? Fellow Taoist Qinghu's natal magic weapon is a Xianhua giant axe, right? I, Debao, will take care of all the spiritual materials needed to upgrade this Xianhua giant axe to a spiritual treasure in the future. When the Xianhua giant axe is upgraded to a spiritual treasure, how about I exchange it from fellow Taoist Qinghu?" Then, Debao seemed to feel that all the bargaining chips were not enough, so he became generous and said, "How about this? I will help fellow Taoist Qinghu to upgrade your magic weapon, but I will add one more thing. Before I have the ability to control the thieving heaven axe, fellow Taoist Qinghu can use the axe as a spiritual treasure. What do you think?" Before Qinghu agreed, Qinghu first asked, You really can get those supreme-grade spiritual materials to upgrade the Xianhua giant axe? You're not bluffing, are you?" The Qinghu 9 bandits had robbed many houses in the past, but until now, they only had 2 or 3 spiritual materials to upgrade the Xianhua giant axe. How could Qinghu believe that Debao, a rat demon at the core forging stage, had such an ability? However, with the help of Lu Ping, there was still a possibility. At this time, Qinghu, who had always been honest and straightforward, also used narrow-minded words. His words were obviously questioning Debao, but in fact he was asking for a guarantee from Lu Ping. However, they still underestimated Treasure Lord. Treasure Lord's most valuable things were inseparable from Lu Ping's help, but these things were useless to Lu Ping. Moreover, over the years, Debao had used these things given to him by Lu Ping to exchange for treasures. Even Lu Ping would go through Debao's collection when he needed them. As for how much wealth Debao had, even Lu Ping himself did not know. Moreover, the power to deal with these things was in the hands of Debao. To gather the spiritual materials needed to upgrade the Xianhua giant axe, Debao really didn't need Lu Ping to worry about it. Before Qinghu could finish his words, he saw a lump of golden red stone in Debao's hand. Qinghu's eyes lit up, Qinghu's eyes narrowed, and Qinghu's eyes bulged. He exclaimed, "Meteorite gold red iron, such a big piece?" Debao said proudly, "How about it? This treasure is one of the main spiritual materials needed to upgrade your Xianhua giant axe. Of course, you don't need this much. When we have the space, find a refining grandmaster to cut a piece of it for you. I don't have the rest with me, but don't worry. After we settle down, Treasure Lord will think of a way." This piece of meteorite gold red iron was one of the treasures that flew out from the explosion of Hanya Laozu's storage artifact when he was killed by Lu Ping. Because of the characteristics of the meteorite gold red iron, it was not damaged at all. Although Debao only showed one piece, Spiritual materials that could be used to upgrade spiritual treasures were extremely rare. If Debao said that he could immediately get all the treasures that could be used to upgrade the Xianhua giant axe, Qinghu and the others would not believe it. Debao understood that the thieving heaven hidden treasure was discovered by Qinghu and the others, but he also knew that no one would give up their natal magic weapon for a spiritual treasure. As long as there was a chance to upgrade a natal magic weapon to a spiritual treasure, the power of a spiritual treasure of the same level would not be comparable to that of a natal magic weapon. Therefore, no matter how famous the thieving heaven divine axe was, if Qinghu had to choose between a natal magic weapon and the thieving heaven divine axe, Debao was sure that Qinghu would choose the natal magic weapon. Sure enough, when Qinghu heard Debao's conditions, she immediately smiled and said, "Then it's a deal." Debao also smiled and said, "It's a deal." At this time, Lu Ping finally laughed. "It's rare to see you, Debao, being so generous for once. You're actually willing to use so many treasures?" There was no dispute between the two sides, and without Lu Ping's participation, the two sides settled their differences. Lu Ping was naturally happy to see this, and did not forget to tease Debao. Lu Ping turned to Qinghu and asked, "Where is the thieving heaven hidden treasure in 9 mystical towers territory?" Qinghu answered, "In the depths of 9 mystical mountain." Lu Ping was taken aback, and he smiled bitterly. "It's so close to 9 mystical tower, no wonder it was discovered by them." Qinghu also smiled bitterly. "That's right, but the last time we ventured into 9 mystical mountains thieving heaven hidden treasure, we obtained a piece of information from it. This time, the main reason why we ventured into 9 mystical towers territory again is because of this piece of information." Lu Ping was taken aback. "Oh, what is it?" "Thieving heaven pill." Qinghu said word by word, then asked Lu Ping, "Master is not only one of the top 3rd-generation cultivators, but also a famous alchemy grandmaster. I wonder if you've heard of a miraculous pill like the thieving heaven pill?" The 9 Profound Mountain was located in a mountain range to the southwest of the 9 Profound Tower. The mountain range wasn't very tall, but it was extremely steep. The 9 Profound Tower didn't get its name from the 9 Profound Mountain. On the contrary, it was called the 9 Profound Mountain because it was very close to the 9 Profound Tower. Lu Ping led Qinghu and the rest in a circle, sneaking into 9 mystical towers territory and arriving at the outskirts of 9 mystical mountain. Once they were close to 9 mystical mountain, Lu Ping used the art of sea deception and constantly changed his appearance to observe the situation in 9 mystical mountain. After returning to their base, Lu Ping sighed helplessly. "The situation is a little more complicated than we thought. 9 Mystical Tower has already put the entire 9 Mystical Tower under surveillance. If we enter again, even if we can avoid the 9 Mystical Tower spies, once we open the treasure trove, the commotion will definitely alert the 9 Mystical Towers cultivators again. They will quickly find the entrance to the treasure trove and set up an ambush outside. It won't be like last time, when the 9 Mystical Towers people were alerted. They arrived too late and could no longer find the entrance." Qinghu frowned. 9 Mystical Tower seems to be very concerned about the thieving heaven treasure trove. Lu Ping nodded. "The more concerned they are, the more precious the treasures in the treasure trove will be." Debao did not care about that. There were only treasures in his eyes. "What treasures are you talking about?" Lu Ping thought about it. The thieving heaven divine axe can be considered the treasure that made Lao Tzu famous, the tool he relied on to make a living, but now he has lost it here, and this place is so close to 9 Mystical Tower. Qinghu immediately gasped. "You're saying that this place is very likely the location of Lao Tzu's most important treasure trove?" Back then, it was rumored that thieving heaven Lao Tzu had once snuck into a sacred land to steal. Could it be that the sacred land that was stolen was 9 Mystical Tower? And this is the stronghold that thieving heaven Lao Tzu set up to infiltrate 9 Mystical Tower? And the reason why 9 Mystical Tower has mobilized so many people is because the treasures that were stolen from 9 Mystical Tower are also in the treasure trove? Lu Ping nodded. Most importantly, after news of thieving heaven Lao Tzu infiltrating a sacred land spread in the cultivation world, thieving heaven Lao Tzu has not appeared in the cultivation world since. Chapter 1195. Hearing Lu Ping's analysis, Qin Lang had a flash of doubt in his mind. but his attention was soon attracted by the possible treasures in the Thieving Heaven's hidden treasure. You are saying that Thieving Heaven Laozu was already heavily injured when he escaped from the sacred land, and this hidden treasure became Thieving Heaven Laozu's final burial ground? No wonder you said that this hidden treasure is very likely to be the most important hidden treasure left behind by Thieving Heaven Laozu. When everyone heard this, they immediately let out low exclamations. Among them, Debao even jumped up and down. He seemed to be extremely excited, and his movements weren't affected by his fat figure at all. At this time, Qing Hu asked with a smile, "Master seems to be quite interested in Thieving Heaven Laozu. You actually know so much about Thieving Heaven Laozu?" This was the question that flashed in Qing Lang's mind previously. After all, Thieving Heaven Laozu was a person from 10,000 years ago, and even now, legends about him had spread like wildfire, but it was still suspicious for someone like Lu Ping to know so many details about him. Even though Qing Hu had her doubts, she could only be doubts in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping only smiled and did not answer, so Qing Hu naturally would not pursue the matter. Lu Ping knew about these things because of the fragments of memories left in Fei Tian Laozu's pure yang soul. This was considered as Lu Ping's biggest secret. He naturally would not reveal these things. And Fei Tian Laozu knew about these things not only because his era was closer to Thieving Heaven Laozu, but also because his location allowed him to obtain more secrets of the cultivation world. More importantly, Ying Tian sect had once obtained a hidden treasure of Thieving Heaven, from which they learned some things about Thieving Heaven Laozu, which were passed down from generation to generation, and were eventually obtained by Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled. "Qing Hu, let's talk about the Thieving Heaven pill. Although you entered the Thieving Heaven treasure trove in a hurry, how did you find traces of the Thieving Heaven pill?" Qing Hu said regretfully, "We only found a jade bottle with the Thieving Heaven pill's name on it, but there were only some dregs left inside." Thieving Heaven pill was also a heaven-defying pill created by Thieving Heaven Laozu in the past. Thieving Heaven Laozu's original intention of refining this pill was to improve the low-rank bloodline of spirit-seeking mice. In other words, to improve the innate aptitude of spirit-seeking mice. In fact, there was no alchemist in the cultivation world who didn't have this idea. Besides, it wasn't that there weren't similar methods to improve one's aptitude. It was just that all of these methods required rare treasures, just like the fruit that Lu Ping's direct disciple, Du Jialua, ate when he was young. They were all treasures that could only be found by luck. Thieving Heaven Laozu was probably like this. When he was still a mouse demon at the blood refining stage, he was fortunate enough to eat a spirit fruit of heaven and earth during a foraging process, which cleansed his body and improved his aptitude, causing his cultivation to soar. Later on, Thieving Heaven Laozu focused on alchemy and had a fortuitous encounter, which pushed his cultivation all the way to the Dharma manifestation stage. And Thieving Heaven Laozu's ambition was not ordinary. He wanted to improve the innate aptitude of spirit-seeking mice. How many spirit-seeking mice were there in the cultivation world? Perhaps even Kai Tian 7th Patriarch did not know the answer to this question. However, to improve the aptitude of a race, perhaps only Kai Tian 7th Patriarch could do it. At the very least, Thieving Heaven Ancestor could not take out those rare heavenly treasures for each of the mice to improve their aptitude. Otherwise, those so-called heavenly treasures would not be called heavenly treasures. But Thieving Heaven Laozu really had this belief and struggled in the cultivation world for hundreds of years. For this reason, he constantly improved those methods that could improve aptitude, hoping to replace those rare treasures with spirit herbs that were as common as possible or not too precious. However, this process was extremely difficult, and the amount of spirit herbs needed was enormous. Even if Thieving Heaven Laozu reduced the rarity of the spirit herbs used, it was only using lesser treasures to replace more precious treasures, using rarer 5,000 years old spirit herbs to replace 5,000 years old spirit herbs, using 3,000 years old spirit herbs to replace 5,000 years old spirit herbs. And in the process of replacement, because of the sufficient amount of medicinal ingredients, the number of spirit herbs needed was often even greater, but the pills refined might not be able to completely reach the effect of improving innate aptitude. But soon, a problem arose. Although Thieving Heaven Laozu was trying his best to reduce the grade of spirit herbs needed for these heaven-defying pills, While rare treasures were rare, they were not so easy to obtain. 3 to 5,000 years old spirit herbs were not dog's tail grass. Furthermore, in order to not reduce the medicinal effect, the amount of these things needed was extremely large. Thieving Heaven Laozu soon fell into a predicament. He could not obtain enough spirit herbs to complete his dream. In desperation, Thieving Heaven Laozu could only take a risk, that was to steal. As a result, all the large and small sects in Central Plains that specialized in cultivating spirit herbs were targeted by Thieving Heaven Laozu. Thieving Heaven Laozu's reputation soared, but he also became the rat of the cultivation world. Everyone wanted to beat him up. However, Thieving Heaven Laozu was indeed worthy of being the most outstanding spirit-seeking rat in the last 10,000 years. Many of the defensive formations in the cultivation world's spirit herb gardens were all broken by him. Many famous great cultivators were alarmed by him, but they could not catch an ordinary Dharma incarnation rat demon. Finally, he targeted the 5 sacred lands. In terms of cultivating spirit herbs, which sect in the cultivation world could compare to the treasures of the sacred lands? There were rumors in the cultivation world that Thieving Heaven Laozu succeeded in the sacred lands, but then he disappeared, and there was no news of this person in the cultivation world. But now it seemed that Thieving Heaven Laozu might have escaped from the 9 mystical tower and stole the spirit herbs, but he obviously suffered a big loss and probably couldn't have survived. In the cultivation world, there were still some spirit pills refined by Thieving Heaven Laozu. These spirit pills were collectively known as Thieving Heaven pills. Most of them were accidentally discovered by cultivators in the thousands of years after. There were very few of them, but each of them could be regarded as the best among the spirit pills. Additionally, most of these spirit pills were related to improving a cultivator's aptitude. Even if they couldn't completely improve a cultivator's aptitude, taking a pill would allow a cultivator to rapidly increase their cultivation base or greatly enhance a certain aspect of their body. These spirit pills were not only the dream of every cultivator, but also the obsession of every alchemist. Thieving Heaven Divine Axe, Thieving Heaven Pill. Just these 2 items alone were enough for Lu Ping to take the risk and make the trip. Tonight, only you, me, and Debao will go. The others will stay outside to provide support. Lu Ping said to Qinghu. For cultivators like Lu Ping and Qinghu, day or night was nothing to them. The reason why Lu Ping chose to sneak into the 9 mystical mountain at night was mainly to cover for Debao. No one knew how many treasures Thieving Heaven Laozu had left in the cultivation world, but some people inadvertently discovered that if they brought along a spirit-seeking mouse when exploring Thieving Heaven Laozu's treasures, they could easily enter the treasures and find more treasures. At this time, the cultivators realized that Thieving Heaven Ancestor spent so much effort to leave behind the hidden treasures. It might be because he wanted to pass his inheritance to his descendants, or because of his background, the spirit-seeking rat could easily find the treasures he was hiding. In other words, Thieving Heaven Ancestor's painstaking efforts were all in vain. His descendants were still one of the most lowly races among the monster race. The treasures he left behind for his descendants were all found by his own descendants under the control of others. In the middle of the night, Qinghu flew towards the 9 mystical mountain while suppressing her speed. Even though she tried her best to hide her aura, she was still discovered by the cultivators of 9 mystical tower. On an empty peak of the 9 mystical mountain, 9 palace tower, Lord Zhujiuwan gritted his teeth and shouted, "It's her, this bitch, the boss of the Qinghu 9 bandits." Shut up. A sturdy man in his 30s did not care about what kind of powerful background Zhu Jiuluan had. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, causing Zhu Jiuluan to obediently shut her mouth. However, Zhu Jiuluan's expression was obviously extremely indignant, but the person in front of her made her extremely fearful, so she did not dare to act rashly. There were obviously other cultivators of the 9 mystical tower on the peak, but they all tactfully shut their mouths at this time. Only one person was lying on a boulder, muttering about a stalk of grass that he had plucked from somewhere. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and mumbled, "Enough, second brother, I know you're waiting for Lu Tianping to appear, but I advise you to call Boss Wei over. You're not much stronger than me. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but I'm afraid you're not Lu Tianping's match." This person was naturally the 3rd of the 9 mystical tower's direct disciples. Chang Lao-san of the Three Talents Pavilion, who had once fought with Lu Ping. The second brother he spoke of was obviously the Two Rights Tower Lord, who was ranked second. They had obviously gathered here because they had expected Lu Ping to bring Qing Hu back to search for the thieving heaven's hidden treasure. Qing Hu's appearance at this time was just a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Not good. Qing Hu seems to have sensed something. She suddenly turned around and ran out of the Nine Mystical Mountain. Could it be that Lu Tianping didn't come to the Nine Mystical Mountain with Qing Hu? Why didn't his brothers come with him? Aren't they usually inseparable? Could it be that they have an ambush outside? An ambush? What a joke! Ambushing the Nine Mystical Towers cultivators in the Nine Mystical Towers territory? Are you going to lend them your guts? I'll lend them. Chang Lao scram. Ninth brother, eighth brother, seventh brother, the three of you go chase after Qing Hu. Remember, if Lu Tianping comes to their rescue, the three of you just need to keep them busy. If you want to wash away the humiliation from before, today is your chance. The Two Rights Tower Lord roared. The rest of you stay where you are, just in case this is a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Chapter 1196. The Yin and Yang Tower Master's guess was indeed correct. Not long after the Green Fox retreated, a cultivator who was standing with the Yin and Yang Tower Master and the Three Talents Tower Master suddenly grunted and said, "Second brother guessed correctly. Someone really did sneak in and activated the warning formation in the mountain." Third brother Chang looked at this person in surprise and sighed. Fifth brother's attainments in formations are becoming more and more astonishing. Second brother and I did not discover that someone sneaked in, but in the end, that person still could not escape from Lu Ping's formation detection. Fifth brother Chang shook his head and said, "That person's method of concealing his tracks is extremely brilliant. If it wasn't for the slight vibration of the ground when he walked and activating the formation, even I would not have known that this person had already sneaked in." The Yin and Yang Tower Master, who had been silent all this while, said, "This person must be Lu Tianping. Only this person could avoid our divine sense and sneak into Jishuan Mountain." The Five Elements Tower Master said, "Should we surround him now?" The Yin and Yang Tower Master shook his head and said, "The three of us working together is enough to deal with him. It's just that this person's strength can defeat a great cultivator. Even if the three of us work together and defeat him, we won't be able to make him stay. Right now, we only need to follow his tracks. This time, the main goal is to figure out the location of the Five Elements' hidden treasure. If we want to deal with Lu Tianping, we will have to wait until he comes out of the hidden treasure." Third brother Chang was startled and said, "This time, we are going to kill Lu Tianping?" The Yin and Yang Tower Master said, "For the thieving heaven hidden treasure, we can't care so much. You all know that when thieving heaven Laozu came out of Spirit Luan Blessed Land, he was heavily injured. After that, there was no news of him in the cultivation world. Our sect's seniors have long suspected that thieving heaven Laozu left behind a hidden treasure near Jiushuan Tower. Thieving heaven Laozu most likely died there. It is a pity that in the last 10,000 years, many of our sect's ancestors, Laozu, had explored the area around our sect more than once, and this Nine Profound Mountain was an important area, but they could not find the inheritance left behind by thieving heaven Laozu. Who would have thought that a few thieves would find it and sneak in? Thinking about the number of treasures found in the thieving heaven hidden treasure, thieving heaven Laozu must have made some arrangements before his death. These thieves only obtained some superficial things. This time, the place where thieving heaven Laozu died will definitely have more treasures. This is also the reason why we are sure that they sneaked back again." The Yin and Yang Tower Master paused here and said, "With Lu Tianping's ability, as long as he enters the thieving heaven hidden treasure, his harvest will definitely surpass the Green Fox 9 bandits. But in order to find the entrance of the thieving heaven hidden treasure, we have no choice but to let him in, so we can only wait for him to come out and kill him. At that time, Boss Wei will also rush over, and fifth brother will also be able to set up a formation at the entrance. At that time, Jishuan Tower's direct lineage Yuan Tower, Yin and Yang Tower, Three Talents Tower, and Five Elements Tower will work together, and with the help of the formation, if we still can't take care of Lu Tianping, then we really can't be direct lineage cultivators, it will be embarrassing. However, as soon as the Yin and Yang Tower Master finished speaking, 5 Elements Tower Master's expression became increasingly strange. Chang Sankai, who was at the side, quickly noticed 5 Elements Tower Master's expression and quickly asked, "Fifth brother, what's wrong?" 5 Elements Tower Master glanced at the two of them and said, "He's coming towards us." The Yin and Yang Tower Master was shocked. He stared at 5 Elements Tower Master and said, "How did he find out?" "Fifth brother, didn't you say that this formation to hide our tracks was comprehended in the nether space lost formation, and even our sect's great cultivators can't find it?" 5 Elements Tower Master was obviously also stunned, but Chang Sankai, who was at the side, said, "Maybe he didn't find us." The Yin and Yang Tower Master and 5 Elements Tower Master were stunned. Then Chang Sankai continued, "Why can't the entrance of the thieving heaven hidden treasure be on the hill where we are?" After sneaking into 9 Profound Mountain, Lu Ping traveled quickly, but he didn't use any flying techniques. He insisted on walking on the ground. He passed through several valleys, then he took a detour and headed towards the hill where the people of 9 Profound Mountain were at. Lu Ping was not proficient in formations, but he had a Dao companion who was proficient in formations. After being trapped in the nether space lost formation for more than 20 years, he also obtained the 9 Debao Restrictions Formation Foundation from the nether space lost formation, so Lu Ping's understanding of formations was not shallow. Right now, he even had the large success stage, 3 Pure True Pupils, ability. After refining the Lone Eagle's bloodline, the power of the 3 Pure True Pupils had become even stronger. Not long after entering the 9 Profound Mountain, he had already discovered the set of concealment formations set up on the hill. The formation that the 5 Elements Tower Master said was comprehended from the nether space lost formation was a joke in Lu Ping's eyes. This concealment formation was simply an imitation of one of the formations in the 8th layer of the nether space lost formation, and it was not a complete imitation. There were only some slight changes at the corners, making it look like it was the same, but it was actually not. Of course, the person who set up the formation was able to enter the 8th layer of the nether space lost formation. At least it meant that this person's attainment in formations was above Deng Ming's, and he was an experienced formation master. If it was on a normal day, Lu Ping would naturally be cautious when he saw this person. However, since this formation was copied so well, Lu Ping, who already knew the answer, naturally would not be so polite. He went straight to the top of the hill, ready to meet the heirs of the 9 Profound Tower. On the top of the hill, Chang Sansai's words were greatly approved by the 2 Elements Tower Masters and the 5 Elements Tower Masters, especially the 5 Elements Tower Master, who was even more certain that Lu Ping definitely did not discover the formation at the top of the hill, and that the thieving heaven treasure was on this hill. The 2 Elements Tower Master nodded and said, "In that case, second brother, open the formation and let him move freely. We will retreat first, and when he finds the entrance to the treasure, we will come back and surround him." The 5 Elements Tower Master executed a few techniques, and under the astonished gaze of Lu Ping, the entire formation still existed, but it had lost the ability to obstruct people from entering the top of the hill. It only had the effect of concealing one's tracks. If not for Lu Ping's 3 Pure True Pupils, he might not even know that there was a formation at the top of the hill. Lu Ping's divine sense moved, and he saw 3 extremely weak auras retreating from the other side of the hill. If not for Lu Ping's extraordinary divine sense, he might only see these 3 auras as wild beasts that roamed the mountains at night. The 9 Profound Towers' actions made Lu Ping a little confused, but he immediately thought of something, and his lips curled into a smile. He really walked around the top of the hill, and then, as if he had tripped, he staggered and kicked a stone under his feet into a depression on the stone wall. Just as the stone smashed into the depression, the whole stone wall suddenly flashed with a spiritual light, and then the stone fell from the stone wall and disappeared again. The 5 Elements Tower Master, who was watching from afar, suddenly exclaimed, "Oh no, he has discovered us!" Immediately after, he saw Lu Ping, who was at the top of the hill, look at the stone wall in shock. Then, as if he had realized something, there was a flash of light under his feet, and he quickly flew out of the 9 Shen Mountain. Chang Sankai was puzzled. How could things be so coincidental? How could a Dharma adept like Lu Ping trip and accidentally kick a stone? Furthermore, the stone had hit one of the nodes of the formation, causing the originally invisible formation to suddenly reveal itself. How could so many coincidences happen at the same time? At this moment, the anxious voice of the Five Elements Tower Master rang out, "Should we chase after him or not?" If they did not chase after him, now that their tracks had been exposed, Lu Tianping would definitely not come after them. If they chased after him, not only would they not be able to catch up, even if they did, could the three of them work together to stop Lu Tianping? At least, Chang Sankai, who had seen Lu Ping's strength, did not think that they would be able to do so. As they spoke, Lu Ping's light had already disappeared into the sky, and the three of them could no longer track Lu Ping. How could he be so fast? The Two Elements Tower Master sighed and said, "There is no need to chase after him. At least we have confirmed that the thieving heaven's inheritance is on this mountain. Even if we spend some effort, we will be able to find it." Outside the 9 Xian Mountain, Zhu Jilwan, the 7 Stars Tower Master, and the 8 Trigrams Tower Master stopped Green Fox. Zhu Jilwan said fiercely, "Bitch, let's see where you can run this time." Green Fox looked at the three people surrounding her and said with a smile, "I did not say that I will run." Zhu Jilwan was startled, then he saw a bright light under Green Fox's feet. Zhu Jilwan immediately shouted, "Quickly, destroy the teleportation formation under her feet." However, the light disappeared in a flash, and there was no trace of Green Fox. Zhu Jilwan and the other two rushed to where Green Fox was standing and saw that the teleportation runes on the simple teleportation formation that was covered by a thin layer of soil were gradually dissipating, leaving only the teleportation talisman at the center of the teleportation formation that was torn to quickly activate the formation. Teleportation arrays could be used for teleportation purposes, but the activation speed was slow. Teleportation arrays could be activated quickly, but the destination of teleportation was not precise enough. However, at this moment, the two were perfectly combined. This was a directional teleportation array. Where did Green Fox go? Somewhere in the 9 Xian Mountain that Lu Ping had passed, Debao, who had shrunk his body as much as possible but was still as fat as a meatball, crawled out from the ground. The reason why Lu Ping had chosen to sneak into the 9 Xian Mountain was to cover for Debao, who was using the earth evasion technique along the way. In the middle of the mountain, Debao transformed back into his human form and chuckled. He tossed an item in his hand into the air. That item was none other than the secret key that Green Fox had used to enter the thieving heaven's inheritance, a small and exquisite axe-shaped magic tool. Debao walked half a circle around the mountain and found the boulder that Green Fox had mentioned. He saw Lu Ping take out the axe-shaped magic tool and it immediately transformed into a majestic giant axe, then fiercely chopped at the boulder. Dang! The boulder was split in two, and the entire 9 Xian Mountain sounded as if a huge gong had been smashed. Debao put away the magic tool in his hand and jumped into the two halves of the boulder. He disappeared into it, and the two halves of the boulder instantly merged back together, becoming whole again. Chapter 1197. The shock from Debao's strike was not small, but the sudden loud noise caught the 9 mystical towers' cultivators off guard. The master of the Yin and Yang building and the others suddenly realized that they had fallen into another trap. Not only Qing Hu, but Lu Tianping was also just bait, luring them to focus all their attention on them. Unexpectedly, a third person had sneaked into Mount Joshuan. However, the crux of the matter was how this third person had snuck in. Why hadn't the 9 mystical towers' measures detected his presence? Not far away, Zhu Jilwan and the others had also rushed over to meet up with the master of the Yin and Yang building and the others. They had returned after being shaken off by Qing Hu. What should we do? Everyone looked at the master of the Yin and Yang building. At this moment, the master of the Yin and Yang building's expression was frighteningly gloomy. Previously, he had thought that everything was under his control, but now he suddenly realized that he had been tricked by Lu Tianping. The heirs did not say anything. Only Zhu Jilwan had a gloating expression on her face. Let's search. What else can we do now? Circle up all the suspicious places in Mount Jiushuan and surround them as soon as possible when they come out. Chang Sankai saw that the master of the Yin and Yang building was not in his right mind, so he said this. Chang Sansai's words brought the master of the Yin and Yang building back to his senses. He continued, "No one is allowed to act alone. Once you discover anything strange, you must immediately entangle the intruder. The others will then go and provide support." Zhu Jilwan casually looked at her hands and said, "Mount Jiushuan is so big. How can we search all the way here with just the few of us? I don't think there's any need to keep up appearances. Let's go back to the sect and ask for help. Call a few of the second-generation cultivators and surround Mount Jiushuan so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. I don't believe that he can fly into the sky." What a joke! Is one Lu Tianping worth alarming the entire 9 mystical tower? A voice suddenly sounded in everyone's ears, and almost everyone's spirit was shaken. Even Chang Sankai, who had always been sloppy, pulled out the grass stalk in his mouth, and Zhu Jioluan's sarcastic young mistemper also disappeared. "Boss Wei, you're finally here." A pale-faced, young-looking cultivator suddenly appeared in front of the other cultivators of the 9 Profound Tower like a ghost. The important people of the 9 Profound Towers seemed to be familiar with the characteristics of this cultivator, so they didn't seem too surprised. Instead, they were extremely respectful. Even Zhu Jiuwan put away all the emotions on her face. This pale young man was the #1 direct disciple of the 9 Profound House, Hall Lord Yuan. Because his surname was Wei, he was addressed as Boss Wei. Of course, cultivators from other sects called him Wei Yuan. Since Lu Tianping has created a diversion and sent someone else into the thieving heaven treasure trove after drawing all of you away, once that person comes out, Qin Hu and Lu Tianping will definitely be waiting outside the 9 mysterious mountain to receive them. This is our chance, our only chance. Wei Yuan looked at everyone calmly. However, no one, including the master of the 2 rights building, dared to look him in the eye. Seeing that no one objected, Wei Yuan nodded slightly and said, "In that case, it's decided." After Debeo jumped into the boulder, he felt his body sink first, then something tightened under his feet. With a dong sound, Debeo felt his vision brighten. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a man-made tunnel that was as tall as a person. Debeo looked around and said, "It really is our spirit-seeking mouse. No, it is the work of the treasure-seeking mouse clan. The thieving heaven ancestor is really powerful." With that, Debeo's fat palm pressed against the stone wall. An earthen yellow vital energy entered the stone wall, and a formation restriction rune appeared on the stone wall. This formation restriction was obviously for the outside and not the inside. Therefore, even a person like Debeo, who did not have much knowledge about formations, could easily find 1 or 2 nodes on the formation. At the instant the node lit up, a crystalline stone the size of a finger appeared in Debeo's hand. He then pressed the small stone into one of the nodes that had lit up. Then, under Debeo's astonished gaze, these lit-up runes were like tadpoles that had come to life and began to slowly move on the stone wall. For some reason, the movement of these spirit runes did not affect the operation of the formation restriction. When these runes moved and formed a new formation, Debeo immediately said with joy, "It's done. This space underworld essence is really extraordinary. It can actually form a simple teleportation formation so easily." As soon as he said that, the newly formed teleportation formation shone brightly. In the blink of an eye, the light faded, and Lu Ping had already arrived at the tunnel. This simple teleportation formation was formed by using the space underworld essence to reorganize the formation runes in the thieving heaven inheritance. But it was a simple teleportation formation after all, and could only teleport 1 person at a time. The teleportation formation flickered continuously. Samling, Green Phoenix, Tiger, Black Tortoise, Lu Taohua, and even Purple Crystal Bee King entered the thieving heaven inheritance. "How is it? Is this place the same as the last time you entered?" Everyone looked at Lu Ping's followers in surprise. Lu Ping asked Green Fox and the rest while plucking the space underworld essence from the stone wall. Even though Green Fox and the rest were curious about the stone in Lu Ping's hand, they still looked around. Green Fox said with joy, "That's right, this is the place. I did not expect to return so easily." Lu Ping nodded and said, "The entrance should have been mostly searched by you. Let's go to the furthest point and start from there." As soon as Lu Ping said that, Debeo called out from the side, "Don't, wait a minute." Lu Ping looked at Debeo and asked, "What is it?" Debeo smiled. "Why is it said that the treasures in the thieving heaven inheritance need to be searched tens to hundreds of times before finding something that has never been discovered before? Because no one can search all of the treasures hidden by thieving heaven Laozu in one go. Even though Green Fox and the rest have searched this tunnel, there are still many things left behind." Green Tiger was a bit unhappy and said, "Hey, then why don't you find some for us to see?" Debao let out a mischievous laugh. His large fat body unhurriedly spun around twice. A wave of earthen yellow smoke rose. After the smoke scattered, Debao had already returned to his original form. A wild boar-sized rat appeared in front of everyone. The giant rat took 2 steps forward. It was exactly where Qing Hu had been standing. The giant rat bustled about, and in the blink of an eye, a 2-foot-deep pit was created. Everyone then saw a palm-sized copper box lying at the bottom of the pit. Qing Hu snorted and didn't say anything else. The giant rat at the bottom of the pit had already thrown the copper box into Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping opened the copper box in front of everyone and smiled. "Good luck, a piece of lapis lazuli, a dual-attribute earth low-grade spirit item." Then he threw the copper box back to Debeo. Debeo's neck flashed and the copper box disappeared. Obviously, there was a storage artifact hanging on Debeo's neck. Debeo climbed out of the pit and started to backfill it. Green Tiger said, "It's just a pit, we need to hurry up, why are you backfilling it?" Debao said seriously, "This was left behind by Ancestor Thieving Heaven, it might even be the resting place of Ancestor Thieving Heaven after he died. Let's take the treasures inside and not disturb his rest." Green Tiger curled his lips, obviously disapproving, but in his opinion, there was no need to argue with a dead person. They walked along the tunnel for hundreds of feet. Along the way, they could clearly see many traces left by the Cyan Fox 9 bandits when they came in last time. Debeo tried his best to erase these traces and restore the original appearance of the secret treasure. At this moment, Big Bao, who had been leading the way, suddenly turned around to look at the wall beside him. Then he let out a cry of surprise. When he arrived in front of the stone wall, a hammer and chisel had appeared in his hands. Then he began to knock on the stone wall with clanging sounds. Green Tiger did not understand and said, "Isn't this just a stone wall? Other than being dug, everything else is naturally formed. Could it be that Thieving Heaven Laozu has the ability to hide things through the stone wall?" Everyone looked at Debeo. Even Lu Ping did not know what was behind this stone wall. This treasure was protected by a formation, his divine sense could not detect anything, and his eyes obviously could not see through the stone wall. At this moment, with a crisp sound of Debeo knocking on the stone wall, a cloud of spiritual energy suddenly spurted out from the hole in the stone wall, and in the crystal light, a spirit stone appeared in front of everyone. "Isn't it just a top-grade spirit stone? Don't make a fuss about it. But this rat demon's nose is really good, he can even find the spirit stone behind a stone wall more than a foot thick." Green Tiger did not know why he was a bit talkative at this time. A slightly childish voice rang out. Qing Hu glared at the source of the voice, only to see Lu Xiaohai say coldly, "Don't forget that most of the rat demon clan inherited the bloodline of Taoist Hu, which is the same origin as you. The bloodline of the spirit-seeking rat is thin and can only be regarded as a low-level demon clan, but its bloodline has never changed." Green Tiger glared at him and said angrily, "Boy, who gave you the right to speak?" Lu Xiaohai looked at Green Tiger with contempt and said, "You only have a quarter of the multicolored tiger bloodline, how dare you be arrogant in front of me?" Chapter 1198. The Cyan Fox 9 bandits had roamed the world of cultivation for many years, and their hearts were proud and unyielding. Although they acknowledged Lu Ping as their master, they also had their own stubbornness. However, this stubbornness was exposed by Qing Hu, who had a slightly irascible temperament. As a result, their stubbornness was met with a powerful counterattack from Lu Xiaohai. The Northern Ice Plains Multicolored Tiger Clan was also a top-grade demon clan left behind by Taoist whose bloodline. It was one of the 3 largest tiger clans along with the Western Desolation White-Fronted Tiger Clan and the Endless Mountain Range Tiger Clan. Most of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits were mixed-blood humans and demons. Qinghu had a quarter of the Multicolored Tiger Clan's bloodline flowing through his veins. He didn't expect that someone would be able to see through him with just a glance. Moreover, this person seemed to be a demon cultivator who had just advanced to the late core forging stage. How could Qinghu not be afraid of this person? He shouted, "Who are you?" Although Lu Xiaohai was now a late core forging stage cultivator, he looked like a 13 or 14-year-old in human form. He was only slightly stronger than his peers. Hearing Qinghu's question, Lu Xiaohai opened his mouth and let out a loud roar. Lu Ping's followers weren't affected by the pressure, but the remaining 6 of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits all carried the monster race's bloodline. They could clearly feel the pressure from their bloodline. Qinghu looked behind Lu Xiaohai with surprise in his eyes. He saw that the spirit qi behind Lu Xiaohai was surging, and it gradually condensed into the shadow of a huge white tiger with hanging eyes. The White-Fronted Tiger Clan. Qinghu exclaimed, "You're actually from the White-Fronted Tiger Clan." Lu Xiaohai snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Bang! Suddenly, a loud noise was heard. It was Debao who was laughing heartily at the side. When everyone looked over, they saw that Debao had pried out the high-grade spirit stone from the wall. Lu Ping had been watching the confrontation with cold eyes. Only now did he open his mouth and ask, "Did you find something?" Debao patted the stone wall and said, "Behind this stone wall is a spirit stone vein, a large spirit stone vein." What? Exclamations of shock rang out from the crowd. Qinghu exclaimed, "Impossible, the 9 Profound Mountain is so close to the 9 Profound Tower, it can be said to be the 9 Profound Tower's backyard. If there really is a large spirit stone vein here, how could the 9 Profound Tower not know about it?" Debao snickered. "When did Treasure Master say that this mine doesn't belong to the 9 Profound Tower?" Qin Lang furrowed his brows and asked, "If it's the 9 Profound Tower's spirit stone mine, then it's even more unreasonable. Why didn't the 9 Profound Towers seal the spirit stone mine with the vein suppression spirit lock formation? Sealed, they are naturally sealed, but it doesn't look like the meridian suppression spirit lock grade array." Treasure Lord was naturally beside himself with joy at this moment. No matter what, Ancestor Thieving Heaven had already secretly opened a gap in this formation. As long as he was willing, he could use the instincts of the spirit-seeking mouse clan to open this gap at any time. "I'm afraid this is the inheritance that Ancestor Thieving Heaven left behind for our spirit-seeking mouse clan. It is a pity that in the last 10,000 years, no spirit-seeking mouse clan's younger generation was able to inherit any of his inheritance." Thieving Heaven Laozu had left an ingenious hole in the formation of the 9 Profound Tower's spirit stone mine, making it so that the 9 Profound Tower had not discovered it in the last 10,000 years. And this hole was not a hole. In fact, it was opened by the instinct of the spirit-seeking mice. Lu Ping quickly asked, "Can this spirit stone mine be closed after it is opened?" Debao said, "Of course it can be closed. Our mouse demon race is good at running small streams over a long period of time. We will not do something like killing the goose that lays the golden eggs to catch the fish." Lu Ping nodded. "That's good, let's go find the other treasures first. This spirit vein will come last." Everyone agreed. Stealing the spirit stone mine was not something that could be completed in a short period of time. Moreover, the mine itself could not be left, so it was the same when they excavated it. At this time, it was more important to find the Thieving Heaven Divine Axe and Thieving Heaven Pill. Debao placed the chiseled stones back into the wall one by one, and the broken stones reformed into a complete stone wall. The group moved forward for another 100 feet, and along the way, they could still see the traces left behind by Qinghu and the rest when they entered the inheritance, and Debao also found more than 10 things in this distance. Although none of them were precious, the most precious were only 2 ordinary strange items. There was no lack of a mid-grade spirit stone, a low-grade magic tool, and other things that were dispensable in the eyes of the group. However, everyone could see that every item that Debao found had been carefully hidden by someone. Clearly the work of Laozu the thieving heaven. As a Dharma adept, why would he spend so much energy on these insignificant things? No one could figure out what this ancestor was thinking. Only Dabao was happily looking around for them. It's here. Last time, we were ultimately stopped here. Qing, who looked at the barrier in front of the tunnel entrance, and turned to speak to Lu Ping. The light blue barrier was like an upright sea level, and Lu Ping's eyes flashed with green light, but he asked, "What method did you use to enter last time?" Azure Fox said, "Ninth sister had some understanding of formations, and she was only a hair's breadth away from becoming a formation master. However, she was powerless against this barrier. It's a pity that Ninth sister was severely injured when she tried to forcibly break through the formation. Otherwise, she wouldn't have died." Forcibly broke the formation, no wonder. Lu Ping smiled bitterly. Thieving Heaven ancestor created such a divine temple space in the inheritance, and the reason why it could be hidden in the 9 Xian Mountain is because this space is attached to the 9 Xian Mountain's sect guarding array. When you two tried to break the array by force, you actually faced the backlash of the entire 9 Xian Mountain's sect guarding array. You were lucky to only be injured and not killed. At this moment, Lu Ping finally understood the mysteries of the Thieving Heaven's treasure. The treasure was attached to the 9 Xian Mountain's array formation and created this space. No wonder the 9 Xian Tower didn't discover it. No wonder the large spirit stone mine discovered by Dabao wasn't protected by the vein suppression spirit lock array formation. The spirit stone mine was directly within the range of the 9 Xian Mountain's array formation, so there was no need for the array formation to protect it. Qing, who naturally knew what the sect protection formation meant, but to be able to find a loophole in the sect protection formation, how powerful was this Thieving Heaven Laozu? Hearing this, Qing, who immediately shouted, "What? The sect protection formation of the sacred land? Then let's quickly retreat. No one will be able to break this barrier." Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, "Although this barrier is an array formation drawn from one of the sect guarding arrays, it can only be considered as borrowing it. It's far from the 9 mystical pavilions' sect guarding array formation." As soon as Lu Ping's voice faded, he opened his hands and 2 charms appeared on his palms. Rays of 5-colored light burst out from the charms. Then, Lu Ping placed his palms on the blue barrier and the 5-colored light shone brightly. The 7th Qing K of the Qing Hu 9 bandits looked at the 5-colored light in Lu Ping's hands and exclaimed, "Ah, 5-colored restriction breaking talisman." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw that the wave-like blue shield in front of him was corroded by the 5-colored light, leaving 2 huge holes. Furthermore, the holes were constantly expanding. In the end, the blue shield completely turned into spiritual energy and dissipated in the air. "It's broken!" Dabao excitedly ran towards the stone room behind the barrier, but before he could take 2 steps, he abruptly stopped. Then with a plop, he knelt on the ground, his head abruptly smashing into the ground. Lu Ping and the others also walked into the stone room, and when they saw Dabao's sudden action, they thought they had fallen into an ambush and stopped in their tracks. Lu Ping raised his head to look at where Dabao knelt, and saw a huge rat corpse that was 3 meters long in a corner of the stone room. This huge rat corpse only had a skeleton and a piece of rat skin left, and the abdomen of the corpse was clearly caved in, showing that it had suffered a heavy injury. Under the left front claw of the huge rat was a crescent-shaped axe that was 2 feet long, and the blade was half a foot long. Seeing that Dabao knelt on the ground without saying anything, Lu Ping asked softly, "Is this the remains of Laozu the thieving god?" Dabao nodded. "There's no mistake, it's the bloodline of the spirit-seeking mice." Then, Dabao pointed at the axe that was pressed by the huge rat corpse and said, "That's almost the thieving god's axe." Qing Hu and the others all looked at this famous spiritual treasure in the cultivation world, but Lu Ping only glanced at it and then looked around the stone room. Seeing that Lu Ping did not pay attention to the axe, Qing Hu walked up and wanted to take the spiritual treasure in her hand, but Lu Ping suddenly said, "Do you know that spiritual treasures have spirits?" Qing Hu was stunned, and she took 2 steps back. Then she heard Lu Ping's voice. "Come out, how long can you hide?" As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, the axe that was pressed under the huge rat corpse suddenly broke free from the huge rat's claw, and a series of runes flashed on the surface of the axe. The axe flew up on its own, and then chopped in the direction of Lu Ping, and a blade light appeared in front of Lu Ping. Qing Hu and the others were shocked. When the axe flew up on its own, they could see that it was indeed a first tribulation spiritual treasure, but the power of the axe was beyond their expectations. However, Lu Ping seemed to be prepared for this. Just before the axe chopped at him, he had already used the thin flowing water sword. When the blade light was about to touch him, the two sword lights from the flying revolving chain slash arrived one after the other and neutralized the blade light. The power of the thin flowing water sword when combined could even compete with a second tribulation spiritual treasure, but this time, it did not gain the upper hand when it collided with the axe, which was also a first tribulation spiritual treasure. It should be known that the giant axe was not controlled by anyone, nor was it supported by spiritual ether. Under such circumstances, it was still able to withstand Lu Ping's great divine swordsmanship, which meant that the quality of the axe was better. Chapter 1199. Since there was no one controlling the axe, the body that was suspended in the air seemed to be swaying after the blow. Lu Ping looked at it and smiled, still not coming out? But do you still want to use the last blow to prepare for another attack? Everyone seemed to be a little puzzled. Only Qing Hu seemed to have realized something, but she did not find the expected hidden object with her divine sense. Then she heard Lu Ping said, "You have seen the effect of the blow just now. Now you should still have the power to make another attack. What else do you think you can do?" At this time, everyone had already followed Lu Ping's gaze to the giant rat corpse lying on the ground. They were shocked. Could it be that thieving Heaven Laozu was still alive? Or did he leave some tricks behind? Otherwise, how could he still control the axe to attack them? Just as everyone was thinking about it, they heard a sneaky voice suddenly sounded from the giant rat corpse. "Who are you? Why did you come to the old man's cave mansion?" The image of a short, shriveled, long-bearded, shifty-eyed old man immediately appeared in everyone's consciousness. Could it be that this person was really thieving Heaven Laozu? It had been so many years, yet he was still alive. Lu Ping smiled and said, "You really know how to play tricks." As expected of thieving Heaven Laozu's spiritual treasure. After saying that, Lu Ping stretched out his hand towards the direction of the giant rat. The axe that had fallen to the ground again rose into the air, but this time, it flew towards Lu Ping's hand. Suddenly, an invisible force rose from the back of the axe and pulled the axe flying towards Lu Ping from the opposite direction. Suddenly, the axe was fixed in the air again. Lu Ping smiled slightly. He stretched out his palm and hooked his forefingers back. The axe slowly pulled towards Lu Ping again. Obviously, the strange force was not a match for Lu Ping at all. However, at this time, the voice that sounded from the giant rat corpse suddenly let out a smug sneer. Then, the surface of the axe suddenly lit up with a light that was more devastating than before. The force pulling the axe in the opposite direction suddenly disappeared, and the axe suddenly chopped towards Lu Ping at a speed faster than before. In an instant, the axe arrived before Lu Ping. However, the scene of Lu Ping panicking and closing his eyes to wait for death did not appear. Instead, a smile appeared on Lu Ping's face. He only had time to say one sentence. "After nearly 10,000 years, you can still maintain your spirituality to this extent. Not bad." Then, 9 layers of light burst out from Lu Ping's palm. Each ray of light formed a large hand of spiritual energy that wrapped around the hand of spiritual energy in front of it. Then, the large hand of spiritual energy moved towards the axe that was coming towards him. However, each of the large hands of spiritual energy that clenched onto the axe was cut through layer by layer. Then, the bright light on the axe was constantly being worn away. After the 9th layer of the golden meteorite astral shield was cut through, the light on the axe had mostly dissipated. Next, it was time to face Lu Ping's body. The strange laughter rang out once more. Although the power of the axe had been reduced by more than half, it was still not something that a cultivator's body could block. However, Lu Ping just happened to block it. The index finger and thumb of his right hand happened to pass through the light and accurately pinched the axe's body. The axe could not move even half an inch forward in midair. The strange laughter stopped abruptly as if it was pinched by the neck. Not only that, but the people around Lu Ping were also stunned for a moment. Even if the power of the axe had mostly dissipated, it was still not something that a cultivator could block with their body. However, Lu Ping used his body to block the attack and forcibly grabbed the spiritual treasure in his hand. Just how strong was Lu Ping's body? In the end, a long and thin bloody mark was left on the web between Lu Ping's thumb and forefinger. Drops of blood seeped out, and then a blue light flashed. After refining the Wonder Dew, Lu Ping's essential energy contained a powerful life force. It had a unique advantage when it came to healing injuries. For example, small wounds like these usually healed very quickly. Still not coming out? Lu Ping held the axe in his left hand. Then he stretched out his right hand and pointed it in the direction of the mummy. Don't, I surrender, I surrender. A black light flew out of the mummy's mouth and quickly hid behind Debeo. It turned into a humanoid shadow. It really was a shriveled old man. He timidly peeked out from behind Debeo and looked at Lu Ping. Qin, who hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Are you the weapon spirit of the heaven-stealing axe?" Among everyone present, the little old man seemed to feel a sense of familiarity from Debeo's aura. In the face of Qin Hu's question, the little old man did not say a word. He just hid behind Debeo and did not dare to come out. However, his eyes would occasionally look at Lu Ping, who was not far away and no longer paying attention to him. Among everyone present, only Lu Ping made him feel a deep sense of fear. Otherwise, he would not have concentrated his only 2 attacks on Lu Ping. Hey, old man, I'm asking you a question. Why are you always hiding behind Treasure Master? Debeo turned around several times, but the old man's ability was much greater than his. No matter how he turned, the old man was always able to hide behind him. After a long time, Debeo felt an eerie feeling at the back of his neck, which made his hair stand on end. The old man's strange voice sounded behind Debeo. "What is the relationship between you and that dead mouse lying on the ground? I can feel that your auras are too similar." Debeo protested. "That is our spirit-seeking mouse clan's old senior, Laozu the thieving heaven he is." "Hey, that's not right. Hey, aren't you the weapon spirit of the heaven-stealing axe? Shouldn't you know more about him than me?" The old man's eyes were suddenly at a loss. Although his figure was extremely illusory, Debeo's question just now had clearly puzzled him. He forcefully pulled his beard and said, "What do I know? What is the heaven-stealing axe that you were talking about? Is it the axe that was snatched by that person? If that is the case, then the old man is indeed the weapon spirit of that axe, but I don't know about that big mouse. But his corpse is very comfortable inside. I have always been inside all these years." Debeo asked again, "All these years? How long has it been?" "How long?" The old man was confused again. "A very long time. I have always been here. I can't remember clearly." At this time, Lu Ping's voice suddenly sounded again. "Oh, so that's how it is." Once Lu Ping's voice sounded, the old man was immediately frightened and hid behind Debeo, not even daring to show his head. Debeo asked Lu Ping, "Boss, what's wrong?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "You have been following me around all these years and have seen a lot of rare treasures. How can you not know that without the nourishment of primeval essence, a weapon spirit's spirituality will dissipate and even return to being a spirit-nurturing treasure? Even if the weapon spirit's body doesn't dissipate, the weapon spirit's memory will slowly dissipate. The heaven-stealing divine axe behind you was able to persist for 10,000 years without dissipating. It is already very rare. Do you think it can remember anything?" Debeo said, "But the power of this guy's 2 attacks just now was not small. There is no trace of spirituality dissipating at all." Lu Ping said, "This is also what I was puzzled about just now. Now it seems that all the mysteries are under this thieving heaven Laozu's corpse and the heaven-stealing divine axe's spirituality." Although this heaven-stealing divine axe was only a first tribulation spirit treasure, its quality was obviously among the best among the first tribulation spirit treasures. It even had some of the characteristics of a second tribulation spirit treasure. Out of the weapon spirit's instinct, it could even absorb and refine a part of the spiritual energy and store it in the spirit treasure itself. This was the fundamental reason why the heaven-stealing divine axe could achieve 2 attacks before. It was just that the spiritual energy absorbed and stored by the body was not refined by the cultivator's primeval essence, so it had no use for the spirit treasure's weapon spirit. Therefore, this weapon spirit looked so weak that only a thin shadow was left, and it could collapse at any time. And thieving heaven Laozu's method was even more brilliant. He clearly drew out a branch vein from the 9 mystical towers' spirit vein to suppress this stone room. Originally, it might have been to recuperate in this stone room, but when Lu Ping looked at the collapsed abdomen of the giant rat's corpse, he clearly did not wait for thieving heaven Laozu to heal and died because of his heavy injuries. On the other hand, due to its instinct to protect itself, the artifact spirit of the heaven-stealing divine axe hid itself in the corpse of the giant rat, which was why it could barely keep its spiritual body from dissipating after nearly 10,000 years. However, its memories and the like had all disappeared, leaving only its instinct to protect itself. Debeo did not give up and asked the old man behind him, heaven-stealing divine axe, thieving heaven Laozu, spirit-seeking rat, treasure-seeking rat, you don't remember any of them? The old man shook his head and said, they all sound familiar, but I can't remember anything. Lu Ping shook his head and said, don't talk nonsense, I'm sure you know your current situation better than anyone else. If you don't want to dissipate, quickly find someone to recognize as your master. With the nourishment of primeval essence, you can slowly recover your spirituality. The old man was extremely afraid of Lu Ping and did not dare to object to any of Lu Ping's orders, but he still asked timidly, then I'll recognize this little fatty as my master? This little fatty is so nice and kind. Debeo immediately beamed with joy, but Qing, who beside him, was not the slightest bit annoyed. Lu Ping laughed coldly and said, he only has a little bit of cultivation. Even if you break open his bone marrow and suck him dry, he won't be able to satisfy your needs. Don't even think about it before he enters the Dharma stage. The old man's eyes darted around 7 or 8 times, and he said, then can I follow you? Lu Ping glared at him and pointed at Qing Hu, saying, I don't need her. Stop talking nonsense and just follow her. The old man was slightly disappointed, but seeing that Qing Hu seemed to be the most powerful person among them besides Lu Ping, and hearing from Lu Ping's tone, it seemed that the little fatty in front of him would still follow Debeo after he grew up. The old man could only nod. Then, the old man turned into a streak of black light and flew toward the heaven-stealing divine axe in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping threw the axe in his hand, and the black light disappeared into it, then flew into Qing Hu's hand. Qing Hu suddenly spat out a stream of pure primeval essence into the axe in her hand, and the heaven-stealing divine axe immediately shone with a black light. Chapter 1200. Seeing that the thieving divine axe was gradually being refined by Qing Hu, Lu Ping slowly walked forward and bowed to the giant rat's corpse, then turned to the others and said, this stone room may be connected to other stone rooms and secret pavilions. Everyone, split up and search, see if you find any pill recipes, spirit pills, or spirit herbs, please hand them over to me. Lu Ping's words were, in fact, a way to tell the crowd that whatever was found would belong to the person who found it. Naturally, the crowd was delighted. However, when they saw Lu Ping bowing to the giant rat's carcass, they also searched carefully and didn't destroy anything in the stone chamber. After all, Lu Ping was an extremely famous alchemy grandmaster, so Qing Hu and the others naturally knew about him. They also understood that Lu Ping's main goal in entering the Thieving Heaven's inheritance was to obtain the various Thieving Heaven pills refined by Laozu. This stone chamber was extremely spacious. It was more than 10 zhang long and several zhang wide. There were many stone cabinets, stone cupboards, and stone shelves around the stone walls. Everyone rummaged through them, and from time to time, they would make a pleasant discovery. Only Qing Hu did not search for treasures with the others. After refining the thieving divine axe, Qing Hu was still nourishing it with true yuan. Although the weapon spirit of the thieving divine axe had been nourished by the spirit vein in the stone room for close to 10,000 years, its spirituality was still severely damaged. If not for everyone's discovery, the weapon spirit would probably disappear in a few decades. This was also the reason why the weapon spirit so easily followed Lu Ping's instructions and chose a new master after being defeated by Lu Ping. Qinghu naturally knew that if she wanted to dig deeper into the thieving divine axe's potential and make it more compatible with her, this was the most crucial moment, and Qinghu naturally would not let go of this opportunity. Moreover, the most precious item in the treasure trove was already in her hands. She had her own discerning eyes, so she wouldn't search for other treasures in the treasure trove with the others. Lu Ping turned to Debao and said, "What do you plan to do with the giant rat's corpse?" Debao said, "This is indeed the thieving heaven Laozu. No ordinary rat demon would have such a huge body. Only the thieving heaven Laozu who had advanced to the Dharma stage could do so. Although the Joshuan Tower did not discover his death here, once we leave the thieving heaven's inheritance, that may not be the case, so I plan to take the corpse with me." Lu Ping nodded and saw Debao step forward with a storage instrument in his hand. A yellow light enveloped the giant rat's corpse, and when the light faded, the corpse had already been stored in Debao's storage instrument. After the giant rat's carcass disappeared, Lu Ping saw that there was a secret chamber behind the carcass. It was just that no one noticed it because it was blocked by the giant rat's carcass, not even their divine senses. Lu Ping used his divine sense to explore the entrance of the secret room, and found that this time, his divine sense had successfully entered the secret room through the hole. Not only that, the thick spiritual qi in the stone room was also leaking out from this secret room, and the branch vein that the thieving heaven Laozu had drawn from the Joshuan mountain spirit vein was in that secret room. Lu Ping turned to Debao and said, "After we return, before we bury the thieving heaven Laozu's corpse, see if there are any treasures hidden in it." Debao and Lu Ping had been partners for a long time, so he naturally knew what Lu Ping meant, so he nodded and said, "Don't worry." Although the stone room was huge, the secret room was extremely small, especially the entrance to the secret room, which was not high. Otherwise, it would not have been blocked by the corpse of the giant rat. Debao could be considered short and fat, but he still had to lower his head slightly to pass through the entrance of the secret room. However, the height of the door was about the same as that of the shriveled old man who had been the weapon spirit of the heaven-stealing divine axe. The two entered the secret room one after another, and the first thing they saw was a 5 feet tall pitch-black pill furnace standing in the center of the secret room. Lu Ping and Debao looked at each other, and they could see the excitement in each other's eyes, because both of them could see that the pill furnace in front of them was a magic treasure pill furnace that was fused with a treasure restriction. There were 2 big words engraved on the black and shiny furnace wall: Thieving Heaven. This was the most direct connection to Thieving Heaven Laozu that Lu Ping and the others saw after entering this treasure trove. Previously, everyone had almost confirmed that this treasure trove was left by Thieving Heaven Laozu, and there was also the giant rat corpse and the axe spirit treasure lying in the stone room. But after all, the cultivation level of the rat corpse could not be seen, and the spirit treasure spirit had long lost its memory inheritance, so there was no evidence that could directly prove that this treasure trove was left by Thieving Heaven Laozu. But now that this magic treasure pill furnace was engraved with the words, Thieving Heaven, it made Lu Ping very clear that this treasure trove was indeed left by Thieving Heaven Laozu. Lu Ping walked forward and slapped the wall of the pill furnace, and the lid flew up. Debao jumped on the edge of the pill furnace, looked inside the pill furnace, then sniffed and said, "There were pills inside, but after such a long time, they have already become useless pills." The moment the lid flew up, Lu Ping had already judged from the smell that the pills inside were already useless, but Lu Ping still carefully took out the 3 loose pills and 2 small piles of pill ashes, and put them into 5 jade bottles. From the reputation of Thieving Heaven Pill, this Thieving Heaven Laozu was definitely a top alchemy grandmaster. Whether these 5 useless pills were Thieving Heaven pills or not, it was worth Lu Ping to carefully investigate them. If they were really Thieving Heaven pills, Lu Ping could at least find some of the spirit herbs needed for the pill recipe from these useless pills. At this time, Debao was already lying at the bottom of the cauldron. There was a spirit gathering formation below, which should be used to nourish the spirit fire for pill refinement. However, the spirit stones embedded in the spirit gathering formation plate had already turned into ashes, and the center of the spirit gathering formation, which was originally used to ignite the spirit fire, was also empty. DeBeo sniffed at the center of the spirit gathering formation and sighed. Boss, it's a pity. The spirit fire ignited in this spirit gathering formation is at least heaven rank. It's a pity that the spirit energy has dissipated and the spirituality is lost. This spirit fire is also useless. Lu Ping looked at the traces of the spirit fire in the center of the spirit gathering formation and nodded. It is indeed a pity. This is a heaven rank middle grade flying duck dazzling fire. Although its effect in pill refinement is not as good as the silver dew spirit fire, it is still a famous spirit fire in the cultivation world. When DeBeo heard this, he felt even more distressed. Lu Ping smiled and said, to be able to find a magic treasure cauldron is already a heaven-rank pill furnace. Don't be greedy, don't push your luck. DeBeo looked around the secret room and saw that there were stone shelves on 3 sides of the secret room. On the shelves, there were jade bottles of pills, jade boxes used to store spirit herbs, and dozens of different kinds of jade slips. DeBeo had already excitedly rushed towards the stone shelves, while Lu Ping walked towards the stone shelves containing the jade slips. DeBeo shouted, Boss, don't you want to take a look at these spirit pills and spirit herbs? Maybe inside are the Stealing Heaven pill and the spirit herbs used to refine the Stealing Heaven pill. Lu Ping smiled and said, after nearly 10,000 years, even if there is a spirit sealing talisman on the jade bottle, the medicinal properties of the pills inside have already lost and become useless pills. As for the jade boxes containing spirit herbs, I'm afraid it's the same, don't look at them. Unexpectedly, when Lu Ping said this and picked up a jade slip, the jade slip also broke into several pieces. Lu Ping was slightly surprised and picked up another jade slip. This jade slip was not broken, but the contents sealed inside had already disappeared without a trace. DeBeo's laughter came from the side and said, Boss, it seems that you didn't find anything there. Lu Ping pointed fiercely at DeBeo, then smiled helplessly. The passage of time was the most terrifying, even the jade slips sealed with all kinds of inheritance contents had broken. Lu Ping told DeBeo, whether there are usable spirit pills or spirit herbs in those jade bottles and jade boxes, take them away. If there is time in the future, this thieving heaven Laozu's attainments in pill refinement must be studied. With that said, Lu Ping's hand tightened. After more than 10 jade slips either broke or the contents sealed inside were annihilated, he finally found an intact jade slip. Lu Ping was overjoyed, and his divine sense immediately penetrated into the jade slip, but then the joy on his face froze. This was actually a blank jade slip. Lu Ping was annoyed, and he was about to throw this jade slip away, but after his fingers pinched the surface of the jade slip, he was slightly stunned. Then he raised the jade slip in his hand in front of his eyes. Green light flowed in his eyes, and his pupils even had a slight golden red color. DeBeo was surprised when he saw Lu Ping holding a jade slip in front of his eyes. Jade slips were usually imprinted with divine sense, and after being sealed, the cultivator could check the contents inside. It was the most intuitive and convenient method, but it was a bit strange for Lu Ping to look at a jade slip in front of his eyes. Boss, what's going on? Lu Ping's face also gradually showed a hint of surprise. Hearing DeBeo's question, he said, "This thieving heaven Laozu is very unique. The content of a pill recipe is not engraved in the jade slip with divine sense, but carved on the jade slip with the method of carving in the mortal world. But this carving is obviously much more subtle than the carving of mortals. If I didn't notice it when I touched it just now, even I would have missed it." DeBeo smiled and said, "Seeing boss is so excited, the content carved on this jade slip must be extraordinary." Lu Ping nodded and sighed. Thieving Heaven Old Ancestor is truly a knowledgeable person. There are many different kinds of Thieving Heaven pellets in the cultivation world, but this one is probably the only one that can truly be considered as the Thieving Heaven. No, it's not just Thieving Heaven, it's heaven-defying. DeBeo suddenly became spirited and hurriedly asked, "What is recorded on it?" Lu Ping threw the jade slip into DeBeo's hands and said, "Calamity Thunder Pill." Thieving Heaven Laozu called this pill the Calamity Thunder Pill. You can look at the specific content yourself. As long as you use your eyesight a little, you will be able to see it. Calamity Thunder Pill. Debao looked at the jade slip suspiciously, just like how Lu Ping did, and after a while, he exclaimed, This is impossible. Lu Ping smiled. Why is it impossible? Otherwise, how could thieving heaven Laozu pass the first thunder trial and advance to the middle Dharma stage? Chapter 1201. The Thunder Calamity Pill, as the name suggested, was a pill that could withstand the thunder calamity. However, this kind of heaven-defying pill could only be used to withstand one thunder calamity, and it could only withstand the 9th thunder calamity in the first thunder calamity. The others were useless. In other words, to use the thunder calamity pill, not only could it only be used when a cultivator entered the mid-dharma stage for the first thunder calamity, but it could only be used after the first 8 thunder calamity. I really didn't expect the thieving heaven ancestor to be able to refine such a magical pill. It's not that he could refine such a pill, but I didn't expect him to have obtained a relic from the creation of the heavens. A relic from the creation of the heavens. Debao exclaimed, turning the jade slip in his hand over and over again. He asked doubtfully, That's it? This is a relic from the creation of the heavens? Lu Ping took the jade slip from Debao's hand, weighed it in his hand, and said, Maybe it can't be considered a relic from the creation of the heavens. It's just that when the 7th patriarch opened the heavens, there were no jade slips passed down in the world of cultivation. The things used to record were just paper, jade tablets, or bamboo slips, and the recorded content was engraved on them. In order to make these things carry more content, the cultivators often used extremely fine characters. Debao said, Yes, this can only prove that this jade tablet may be an item passed down from that time, but it can't be said to be a relic from the creation of the heavens, right? However, the quality of this jade slip is undeniable. The other jade slips have been turned to dust after nearly 10,000 years, but this jade slip is undamaged. This shows that it is extraordinary. Even if it is not a relic from the creation of the heavens, it is probably left behind by a powerful cultivator from the creation of the heavens. Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, There's no need to rush to a conclusion. You have to take a look at the contents of this jade. Although the method to concoct the Tribulation Thunder Pellet is recorded in it, it's full of speculation and speculation. However, the last paragraph is very certain. It says that the Tribulation Thunder Pellet can be used to block the 9th lightning strike of the first lightning tribulation, but it has no effect on the 2nd, 3rd lightning tribulation, or even the 7th lightning strike of a certain lightning tribulation. This kind of certainty is completely different from the uncertainty and extreme hesitation in the introduction of the alchemy process. Debao said, Boss, you mean these 2 paragraphs were not left behind by one person? Lu Ping laughed and scolded, Nonsense, can't you see that the font of the 2 paragraphs are different? Obviously, the first person recorded this guess, and the second person finally refined this kind of pill and tested its effect. However, there are still some things hidden in it. Your cultivation is not enough, so I'm afraid you can't see them. Lu Ping extended the jade slip to Debao again, but this time he did not hand it to him. Instead, a dense stream of spiritual essence surged in Lu Ping's hand, almost dyeing this warm white jade blue. Immediately after, a hidden sentence appeared in the upper left corner of this white jade, Turtle Tao ancestor of the South Sea, sit and listen. Debao was stunned. This was recorded by Taoist Gui's followers? Taoist Gui is the originator of alchemy in the world of cultivation. If this guess about the Tribulation Thunder Pill was written by Taoist Gui, and then meticulously recorded on jade slips by his followers, then it makes sense. Lu Ping nodded and said, It should be so. It is said that Taoist Gui is fond of sleeping, and no one knows when he will come. In order to make it convenient for his followers to listen to his teachings when he wakes up, they almost always carry this kind of jade slip with them. Thus, when Taoist Gui, who is fond of sleeping, suddenly wakes up, he will only be awake for a day or two, or even an hour or two before falling asleep again. Therefore, his followers will try their best to record his lectures every time he temporarily wakes up, and then comprehend them later. Because most of the time, Taoist Gui will not repeatedly explain during his lectures, so these followers will not have the time to comprehend on the spot. Debao sighed. This kind of heaven-defying panacea is only a record of Taoist Gui's guess. I didn't expect it to actually work. The seventh patriarch of Heaven Splitter is really unfathomable and awe-inspiring. But, Debao then asked doubtfully, "Boss, how do you know so much?" Lu Ping chuckled, "I was once instructed by a pure young Laozu, so I know a little more." Debao immediately exclaimed, "What? Boss, you were instructed by pure young Laozu? But how could I not know?" Usually, Debao is always by boss's side, but he has never noticed that you were instructed by pure young Laozu. Lu Ping smiled but did not say anything. He turned around and began to read the other jade slips. On the side, Debao was still a little unwilling to give up. He said, "Boss, are we not going to refine such a heaven-defying panacea?" "This panacea is indeed amazing, but it's just a chicken rib." Debao shouted, "How can this be of little value? It can block a bolt of tribulation lightning. Have you seen the consequences of taking the Thunder Calamity Panacea? Although your level of practice has reached the mid-Dharma stage, your lifespan will only increase by half. Not only that, but this kind of heaven-defying method also comes with a high price. The ninth lightning strike is the most important for the Dharma stage. Without the ninth lightning strike, the practitioner's ability will be lower than that of the same level practitioners, but the key is that they will not have a chance to improve further in the future. This Thunder Calamity Panacea is actually a one-off deal. Debao was still unwilling to give up. He said, "I think this panacea is still useful, especially for those practitioners who are not very confident of surviving the lightning strikes." Lu Ping said, "Rather than risking your life to overcome the first 8 lightning bolts, it's better to give it a shot on the 9th lightning bolt. At the very least, you'll have a chance to improve after you succeed. Or, you can make more preparations after you overcome the lightning tribulation and strengthen your foundation. It's better than failing at the last moment." Debao cried out, "Boss, do you think everyone is like you, hugging a treasure and summoning lightning strikes together to survive? There are thousands of practitioners in the world of practice, but how many of them can reach the mid-Dharma stage? How many practitioners reach the early Dharma stage as their limit? How many early Dharma adepts who summon their first lightning strike eventually fall at the 9th lightning strike? If there is a panacea that avoids the 9th lightning strike and a practitioner who is on the verge of death after surviving the first 8 lightning strikes, why would they care about their lifespan and the slowing down of their growth? Their priority would be to survive." Lu Ping thought about it and felt that what Zhou Donghuang said made sense. As he continued to search for a jade scroll that was still intact, he sighed and said, "What you said makes sense, but can't you take a good look at the contents of the jade scroll? How many types of spirit herbs are there in the world of practice today that are used to refine the Calamity Thunder Pill?" Debao was taken aback. He took a closer look at the various types of spirit herbs recorded in the jade scroll and gasped. He said, "My goodness, these are all priceless items that have disappeared from the world of practice a long time ago. If the Calamity Thunder Pill really needs to be refined with these things, then it's really not worth it." This time, it was Lu Ping who said, "It's something that can save a life. How could it be worth it? It's just that the rare herbs used to refine the Calamity Thunder Pill might not have disappeared from the world of practice." Debao gasped and said, "Boss, you mean to say that these rare herbs only exist in the world of practice in the holy lands of the human race and the giant demon tribes? Could it be that the ancestor of the thieving heaven targeted the 9 mystical tower to steal the spirit herbs from the 9 mystical towers' herb garden to refine the Calamity Thunder Pill?" Lu Ping picked up a jade scroll and looked at it as he said, "That's just one possibility." After all, the thieving heaven Laozu was already in the mid-Dharma stage at that time. No one knows if he had used the Calamity Thunder Pill. However, he rarely fights with people in the world of practice and usually runs away when he sees people. So many people think that the thieving heaven Laozu is the weakest among the practitioners of the same level. After saying that, Lu Ping exclaimed, "The records on this jade scroll are also quite interesting." Debao saw that Lu Ping's gaze was not on the jade scroll and knew that this jade scroll was not like the previous one, where the contents were carved on the jade scroll. Instead, it was like a normal jade scroll, where the contents were checked using divine sense. Debao could not help but ask, "Is there anything unusual about it?" Lu Ping kept the jade scroll and said, "There's also an elixir recipe inside. It's a 6th grade Dharma pill." 6th grade? Dharma? Debao mumbled, "Could it be that this elixir?" Lu Ping nodded and smiled. Although a practitioner at the peak of the core forging stage who has condensed a 6th grade golden core still has a glimmer of hope of advancing to the Dharma stage, it's just too difficult. Practitioners often have to go through many hardships and pay a high price to fight for this slim chance of survival. Furthermore, advancing to the early Dharma stage is already the peak of a practitioner's practice. This 6th grade Dharma pill is a type of elixir used to forcefully raise the level of cultivation of a 6th grade golden core to the Dharma stage. Although there's still no possibility of advancing further after advancing to the early Dharma stage, it avoids many unknown pains and the price paid is relatively small. Also, the chances of success are higher. Debao said, "I'm afraid this kind of elixir is extremely difficult to refine, right?" Lu Ping nodded. However, compared to the time when Jinling had almost used the entire sex power to push Tianlu and Tianjiang, the two Laozu, from the 6th grade golden core to the early Dharma stage, the price paid for a 6th grade Dharma pill was much lower. This was also why Tianjiang and Tianlu, the two Laozu, were so determined to fight to the death for Jinling, especially Tianjiang Laozu, who lived on his own will. Now, no one knew if the day Jinling's treasured ship would come to an end after it was repaired. Of course, this was partly because he had sacrificed his life for his ideals, but it was also because he was repaying a debt of gratitude. At this time, Debao's cheers came from the other side. He said, "Boss, come and take a look at these things." Chapter 1202. Compared to spirit grasses, spirit pills were easier for cultivators to refine and absorb, and they were the condensation of countless essences. But compared to spirit pills, it was easier for spirit grasses to maintain their medicinal properties, so they could be preserved for a longer period of time. Furthermore, Thieving Heaven Laozu created this secret room to store his pill refinement inheritance. It was just that too much time had passed. Close to 10,000 years was enough to erase all traces, but there were still some things left behind, including a portion of the spirit grasses that Thieving Heaven Laozu carefully preserved. Lu Ping was stunned when he saw the spirit herbs sealed in layers of spirit sealing charms. Then he was overjoyed. These spirit herbs were all rare and precious herbs in the cultivation world. Not only that, but they were also exceptionally mature. From the beginning to the end, all of them were at least 3,000 years old. Lu Ping carefully looked at the spirit herbs and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to use them as soon as possible." Debao said, "That's right. Although a small portion of the spirit herbs have been preserved in the jade boxes, it is clear that the medicinal properties of the spirit herbs have reached their limit. After opening the jade boxes, I'm afraid they won't be able to hide for another 3 to 5 years before all the spirit herbs become useless. Let's keep them first." There were close to 100 jade boxes containing spirit grasses on this stone shelf, but the two of them only took away 10 jade boxes after searching for a long time. The spirit grasses in the other jade boxes were all wasted. In this stone room, of the 3 stone shelves on the stone walls, the spirit pills on the stone shelf were all scrapped. The stone shelf on the side with the inheritance jade slips only had 2 jade slips that recorded the pill formula. The stone shelf with the most harvest was the jade box that contained the spirit grass. Debao searched the entire stone chamber a few more times and found a bunch of random things. Naturally, none of them caught Lu Ping's attention. Even Debao couldn't bear to throw them away, so he kept them all into his interspatial mystic instrument. "It's about time. We can't find anything else in this stone room. Let's go, boss." Outside the stone room, Qin Hu and the rest, as well as Sam Ling and the rest, had their own harvests. Thieving Heaven Laozu's inheritance was naturally very rich, but this Laozu clearly had a special hobby, which was to hide the treasures in pieces. No matter which corner they were in, they could find something. Sometimes, an extremely valuable item wasn't hidden at all. Sometimes, after following a vague clue and racking one's brains, one could only obtain an ordinary item from an unimaginable place, which was a great disappointment. The treasures in the thieving heaven's inheritance have always been hidden for the sake of hiding, not because they are valuable. This is the nature of us spirit-seeking mice. Treasures are important, but it is more important to hide them well. DeBeo had previously been surprised by the endless number of treasures in the thieving heaven's inheritance, but DeBeo explained it like this. Therefore, no one can know the location of all the treasures in a thieving heaven's inheritance, and no one will know whether the treasures in a thieving heaven's inheritance have been searched or not. Therefore, every time a thieving heaven's inheritance is discovered, after a period of large-scale excavation, there will still be a continuous flow of people entering the thieving heaven's inheritance to search for treasures. Occasionally, someone will be lucky enough to find 1 or 2 items, causing every thieving heaven's inheritance to become a treasure land that will last for tens or even hundreds of years. It can be considered a miracle in the cultivation world. The secret room had 4 stone walls, 3 of which were filled with spirit pills, spirit herbs, and pill recipes. Only 1 stone wall was empty. It was just a stone wall, but at this time, Lu Ping's attention was attracted by this empty stone wall. DeBeo, go call the green fox here. One of Lu Ping's palms was already on this wall, and his eyes were no longer flickering with green light, but green-golden light that illuminated the entire wall. His eyes had also turned golden red, and when he looked at DeBeo, DeBeo was so frightened that he took a step back. The group spent several hours in the treasure trove. Cyan Fox refined and nurtured the Sky Snatcher's divine axe for a while. When she was certain that the artifact spirit had been nurtured enough, she joined in the treasure hunt. When the green fox came in, Lu Ping's palms were already on the stone wall. At this time, not only DeBeo and the green fox, but the others also sensed that something was wrong. They all stood outside the secret room and looked in. They saw 2 dense bluish-purple lights flowing along the arms of the green fox and into the stone wall that Lu Ping's palms were on, and the front of the stone wall was dyed blue. Seeing the green fox come in, Lu Ping asked, "Can you use the thieving divine axe well?" The green fox looked at the stone wall and said, "I can use it well, but the more subtle monster trainers may need more time to practice." The green fox took out the thieving divine axe. The shriveled old man's appearance was obviously based on the appearance of the thieving Laozu from 10,000 years ago, but when he saw Lu Ping, he immediately nodded and bowed. Lu Ping asked, "Do you remember anything about this stone wall?" The thieving divine axe shook his head, and with a terrified expression, he said, "No, I don't remember anything." Lu Ping nodded at the green fox and said, "Listen to my instructions later. Use the spirit treasure in your hand to cut a hole in this stone wall." Before the green fox could reply, DeBeo at the side already started to make a fuss. "Boss, is there some treasure hidden behind this stone wall? I said that 3 of the 4 walls in this secret room have stone shelves, and only this side is empty. Boss, your eyes are really sharp." Lu Ping waved his hand, and the amethyst wasp king was sent into the golden house, and he scolded with a smile, "Stop flattering me. It is hard to say whether this stone wall is a blessing or a curse. In a while, the green fox, DeBeo, and Samling will follow me in, and the others will wait here and continue to search for the thieving heaven inheritance. If we do not return in 3 days, Qin, you will leave with everyone and immediately head north to Ingtian Courtyard and return to the Northern Sea." Lu Qiner wanted to say something, but the nearby DeBeo had already thought of something, and he said with a trembling heart, "Boss, behind this stone wall is the entrance to the 9 profound palace grotto heaven opened by the thieving heaven ancestor, right?" 3 5-colored rays of light rose from behind Lu Ping, and they stuck to the stone wall in 3 different directions. Lu Ping turned around and smiled. "You are right, green fox. Do it, remember, cut, not hack." The 3 5-colored rays of light stuck to the stone wall, and with the help of these 3 5-colored restriction-breaking talismans, the entire stone wall finally began to transform into a wave-like barrier. At this time, the blade of the thieving heaven divine axe fiercely slashed at the barrier, and a crack appeared on the barrier, but it quickly began to close up. Lu Ping's hands, which had been stuck close to the barrier, suddenly inserted into the crack that had yet to close up, and with a sudden pull, Lu Ping tore open a large hole in the crack. Spirit chi, denser than in the secret room, gushed out of the hole. Behind the hole was clearly a place with even denser spirit chi. Lu Ping entered the hole first, and Green Fox followed closely, followed by Debao and Samling. Then, the hole in the barrier gradually closed up, and it became a stone wall again. In an unknown location, a spatial door suddenly opened. Lu Ping was the first to step out of the door, followed by two familiar presences rushing towards him from the left and right. However, these two presences were extremely strong, almost at the avatar realm. Lu Ping was the first to step out of the spatial door, and he was the first to step out. Lu Ping was shocked, and he slashed out with his thin water-long stream sword, and the sharp sword aura rushed towards both sides like water from a broken dam. Then he heard two clear cries, and a large number of green feathers fell from the sky. This time, it was Lu Ping's turn to be shocked. When these two auras had rushed down from the sky, the impact that each of them had on Lu Ping was no less than that of a mid-Dharma adept. How could Lu Ping be forced into such a pathetic state by two hasty slashes? At this time, Green Fox, Debao, Samling, and the others jumped out of the door one after another. Seeing the thin water-long stream sword circling around Lu Ping, they all felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Green Fox's strength was second only to Lu Ping, and she quickly discovered the two attackers. She said, "Each of us, let's deal with one each. Let's end this quickly, or else something might happen." Unexpectedly, Lu Ping raised his hand to stop her. He said, "There's no rush, there's something fishy about this." The two auras slowly approached Lu Ping and the others, but they maintained a certain distance, as if they were extremely wary of Lu Ping's two slashes. At this time, Lu Ping raised his voice and said, "Elders Mu Luan, would you please show yourself?" Mu Luan? Green Fox was taken aback, and even Samling and Debao were surprised. Two middle-aged men dressed in green walked out slowly from behind a slope. The two of them, who had originally looked exceptionally tall and dignified, had two slashes on their chests and abdomen, and they looked extremely pathetic. The two of them looked at Lu Ping and the others with doubtful expressions, but they were also unusually cautious. The one on the left asked slowly, "You're not disciples of the 9 Xian Tower, are you?" Lu Ping did not answer directly, but asked, "Are the two of you from the Mu Luan tribe that has lived here for generations?" The two Mu Luan looked at each other, and the one on the right was obviously impatient. He asked loudly, "Who are you? Tell us quickly, or we'll send out a warning and gather the 9 Xian Tower's disciples to surround and kill you." At this time, Lu Ping finally calmed down. He chuckled and said, "I believe the two of you have already confirmed who we are. Moreover, if the two of you wanted to gather the 9 Xian Tower's disciples, I'm afraid you would have done so long ago. Why wait until now?" The two Mu Luan kept their mouths shut and only stood in the distance, facing off against Lu Ping and the others. They did not send out any warning or gather the 9 Xian Tower's disciples. Lu Ping seemed to have expected this, and he directly ignored the two Mu Luan. He beckoned to the one behind him and said, "Debao, this should be the 9 Xian Tower's grotto heaven that specializes in cultivating spirit herbs. Hurry up and pick the valuable, important, and mature ones. Also, look for all the spirit herbs recorded in the 2 pill recipes you saw earlier. Remember, do not stray more than 30 li from me." Debao chuckled and said, "There are truly too many treasures here. I, Debao, have been waiting for a long time." As he finished speaking, a yellow cloud of dust rose from his feet. Debao had already used the earth evasion technique and disappeared. Chapter 1203. It was obvious that this was a grotto heaven in the 9 profound tower that was specially used to cultivate spiritual herbs. The terrain inside the grotto heaven was uneven, but it was filled with spiritual herb gardens. All kinds of spiritual herbs grew in different types, and they grew in different areas. Occasionally, there were some medicinal trees that formed a lush forest. The rich spiritual qi nourished all the life in the grotto heaven. Lu Ping felt as if he could feel the vigorous vitality in the grotto heaven even as he breathed. Spirit-seeking mouse? The wood phoenix cultivator on the right looked in the direction that Debao had disappeared in bewilderment. It was unknown whether he was asking Lu Ping, the pale-faced wood phoenix cultivator on the left, Or perhaps he was muttering to himself. Lu Ping seemed to know that DeBeo had not gone far. He said loudly, "Be careful. Don't make it too obvious. Only take what's useful. Don't give yourself away too much." The two wood phoenixes looked at each other. It was obvious that these people were treating them as nothing. Moreover, it seemed like they were planning to make a small, long-term investment. Qing Hu also looked at Lu Ping in surprise. "Are you planning to come again in the future?" Lu Ping looked in the direction of the two wood phoenixes and said, "Whether or not I can come again depends on these two seniors." When Qing Hu looked over, the two wood phoenixes were already whispering to each other. She couldn't tell what they were discussing. Meanwhile, Lu Ping once again summoned the amethyst queen bee from the House of Gold. He ordered her to lead her subjects into the grotto heaven in a grandiose manner. Similarly, according to Lu Ping's orders, the amethyst bees would not leave the 30-kilometer radius that Lu Ping's divine sense could cover. Amethyst bees. The two wood phoenixes didn't even have time to discuss. They stared dumbfoundedly at the 3,000 amethyst bees charging into the sea of spiritual herbs under the amethyst queen bee's guidance. However, in just a short while, the two of them gasped again as they watched the 3 14 or 15-year-old children walking into the cave. One of them exclaimed in a low voice, "Green sea snake." The other person muttered to himself, "Wind snake, water snake, and ice snake. The descendants of the 3 strongest tribes of the green sea snake." Another 2 streaks of light descended from the sky. They were 2 attractive middle-aged women, both of them at the early Dharma stage. It was obvious that they had come to meet up with the 2 wood phoenix adepts because they had discovered the abnormality of this place. However, just like the 2 wood phoenix adepts, these 2 women did not attack Lu Ping and Green Fox. Green Fox was a little uneasy as she said, "What's going on? If these 4 were to join forces against us, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand in a short period of time. But they're all from the Wood Phoenix tribe. Once they warn us, we'll be like turtles in a jar." Lu Ping smiled faintly. If these people really wanted to hand us over to the 9 Mystical Tower, they would have warned the 9 Mystical Tower the moment we entered this cave. In fact, they didn't do anything at all. But when you came in just now, they attacked. Lu Ping nodded and said, "The 2 wood phoenixes indeed have strong training, but their abilities may not be that high. Even if you were to attack, those 2 might not be able to defeat you even if they joined forces." Green Fox was in disbelief. "How is that possible? The Wood Phoenix tribe is a top-level demon clan, and they are the direct descendants of the Wan Daoist, who is as famous as the Fire Phoenix. With their level of training, they might not be weaker than me among the same level of practitioners." Lu Ping laughed loudly. "How many Wood Phoenixes are left of the Wood Phoenix tribe in the world of practitioners? I'm afraid the only ones left are the Wood Phoenix slaves that are raised in the caves of the various holy lands to cultivate spirit herbs. They are sacrificed at specific times to help the practitioners of the holy lands break through the bottleneck of their training. How strong do you think these Wood Phoenix slaves are? In order to control these demon slaves, why would the holy lands allow them to grow freely?" Green Fox naturally understood the logic behind this, but she still asked, "No matter what, the Woodluan tribe is one of the most powerful tribes among the monster race. They have inherited their bloodline and memories, and this grotto heaven is rich in spirit chi and spirit herbs. It seems like the 9 Mystical Tower isn't controlling them, but imprisoning them at most." Lu Ping laughed. "You don't know this, but although these top-level demons have inherited their bloodlines and memories, these things can only support their training before they reach the core forging stage. If they want to reach the Dharma stage and still maintain their advantage as a top-level demon clan, then they have to stay in the secret cave of the Wood Phoenix tribe for a long time. Otherwise, even if they reach the Dharma stage, without the secret techniques and cultivation methods of the Wood Phoenix tribe, they can only gradually become mediocre. Furthermore, they have been imprisoned here their entire lives, and have never had any experience in fighting with others. Just now, when the 2 of them fought, they completely relied on their cultivation to win. How strong do you think they are?" The conversation between Lu Ping and Green Fox was not deliberately hidden, so the 4 Wood Phoenix cultivators heard it clearly. When Lu Ping finished speaking, the pale-faced wood phoenix cultivator could not help but ask, "Who are you? How do you know so many secrets of the wood phoenix tribe?" Lu Ping smiled. "In the end, you can't hold it in any longer. Naturally, we came in from outside the 9 mystical tower. As for what method we used to break through the protective array of the 9 mystical tower and enter, I believe that only the wood phoenix seniors know." The face of the wood phoenix cultivator with the silk scarf on his head immediately changed. He snorted coldly and said, "What are you talking about? We don't understand what you mean." Lu Ping did not comment on this person's denial. Instead, he answered the question of the wood phoenix cultivator, saying, "Although the wood phoenix tribe is on the verge of extinction, it is not extinct. I once had a good friend of the wood phoenix tribe, and he is currently cultivating in the secret cave of the wood phoenix tribe in the East Sea, so he knows a lot about your clan." "Impossible. Is that true?" The silk scarf wood phoenix and the pale-faced wood phoenix almost blurted out at the same time. The two of them looked at each other, both seeing shock and hope in the other's eyes. In the end, it was the silk scarf wood phoenix who said with a slight tremble, "The wood phoenix tribe of the cultivation world really did not go extinct?" Lu Ping shrugged and said, "No, but I'm afraid it won't be long. Anyway, I've only seen one Wood Luan before. I've never heard any news about the Wood Luan clan in the cultivation world for the past few hundred years. Of course, there are rumors that there are ancient spirit birds and beasts like you in the sacred land. But I'm afraid your identities are a bit awkward, so no one will treat you as part of the Wood Luan clan." Lu Ping's words were extremely straightforward. The silk scarf cultivator's face showed anger, and the pale-faced wood phoenix became even paler. The two female wood phoenix cultivators also looked at Lu Ping with unsightly expressions, but there was also a hint of loneliness. Qing Hu, on the other hand, became even more nervous, afraid that the wood phoenix would be angered by Lu Ping's sharp words and send a warning to the 9 mystical tower. Even though she still felt puzzled that the wood phoenix had not sent a warning to the 9 mystical tower, this was still what she hoped for. However, when she thought about infiltrating the inheritance cave of the 9 mystical tower, she felt an inexplicable excitement in her heart. "Fellows, if you have anything to say, just say it. Looks like this sky grotto is a place specially used by 9 profound tower to grow spiritual herbs. You fellows must be the spiritual plant farmers here, right? However, given how important this place is, it is impossible for 9 Profound Tower to not send some cultivators to check on it frequently." In Qing Hu's eyes, Lu Ping's words were as rude as possible, but the 4-aspect Azure Luan became calmer and calmer after hearing Lu Ping's words. It was truly strange. "You came in through the passage opened by the thieving heaven Laozu?" The 4 of them whispered to each other again. This time, it was one of the 2 female wood phoenix cultivators who spoke. Lu Ping's expression was one of certainty. "I didn't think that you would still be waiting after 10,000 years. It seems that the thieving heaven Laozu really did have some secret agreement with you when he entered this place. For you to be willing to keep this secret for almost 10,000 years, it must be because the thieving heaven Laozu promised to help you escape from the bondage of monster slaves." The female wood phoenix cultivator said fiercely, "Who would be willing to be a monster slave from birth? In every generation, other than leaving behind a few seeds, the rest of the clansmen would disappear. Needless to say, we know that they were killed by the 9 mystical tower and used to grow rare herbs to increase their cultivation." The other female wood phoenix cultivator thought of something and asked in surprise, You didn't know about this at all?" Lu Ping smiled. "That's right, but now I can roughly guess what is going on." The pale-faced wood phoenix cultivator asked, "Then what's the deal with that spirit-seeking mouse of yours?" Lu Ping said calmly, "He is my follower and also my brother." "Follower? Is there still such an existence in the cultivation world? You actually did not place restrictions on their divine senses?" The silk turban wood phoenix was somewhat surprised and emotional. The other wood phoenix's expressions changed. Even the green fox had a strange expression. Lu Ping found it funny. After placing restrictions on them, they can only be monster slaves and spirit pets like you. How can they be followers? How can they be brothers? Lu Ping did not care about what the wood phoenixes were thinking. He said directly, Back then, thieving heaven Lao Tzu died from his injuries after leaving this grotto heaven. He naturally could not return to save you, and he also could not leave behind his last words to save you. Lu Ping did not care about their expressions. He continued, and if I am not wrong, the fatal injuries on thieving heaven Lao Tzu's body were likely caused by your ancestor, right? Rather than saying that thieving heaven Lao Tzu agreed to save you, it is more accurate to say that he was forced to do so. Chapter 1204. More than 9,000 years ago, the first time thieving Lao Tzu stepped into the longevity grotto heaven, he was discovered by the Wood Luan demon slaves at that time. It was also at the place where Lu Ping and the rest appeared. The two mid-Dharma stage Wood Luan demon slaves joined forces and heavily injured Lao Tzu, who had just entered. Having lost the inheritance of the Wood Phoenix clan after advancing to the Dharma stage, the strength of the demon slaves could only be considered mediocre among practitioners of the same level, but it was still not something that the thieving sky patriarch could withstand. Even though he was also a mid-Dharma adept, to be able to push his cultivation to the mid-Dharma stage, it was unknown how many tricks he had used and how many coincidences he had encountered. With his cultivation and strength, it was not an exaggeration to say that he was the weakest among the practitioners of the same level, so how could he withstand the attack of two Wood Phoenix demon slaves? The heavily injured and captured thieving Lao Tzu had no choice but to agree to the Wood Luan race's many conditions, the most important of which was that he would enter the longevity grotto heaven in the future and bring the Wood Luan race's descendants out of the grotto heaven, so that they would not be enslaved by the 9 Shen Tower. For this, the Wood Luan demon slaves in the grotto heavens secretly helped thieving Lao Tzu to steal a large number of rare herbs from the longevity grotto heaven before letting him go. Of course, even if the Wood Luan demon slaves in the longevity grotto heaven did not know the ways of the world, they still had to guard against thieving Lao Tzu going back on his word after leaving the grotto heaven. Thus, they had a backup plan, so that thieving Lao Tzu would not be able to enter the grotto heaven again. Back then, when thieving Lao Tzu entered the longevity grotto heaven, he was captured by the ancestor of the Wood Luan demon slaves. However, at that time, the Wood Luan demon slaves did not have any eggs that had not hatched yet, so they could not let thieving Lao Tzu take them away. And after the Wood Luan race was born, they would be turned into demon slaves by the 9 Shen Tower's divine will. Even if they were not in the longevity grotto heaven, their life and death were at the mercy of the 9 Shen Tower. With no other choice, the ancestor of the Wood Luan demon slave had no choice but to let thieving heaven Lao Tzu leave and agreed to enter the grotto heaven again to take the Wood Luan egg and raise it in the cultivation world. However, the Wood Luan demon slaves did not expect that the injuries they had inflicted on thieving Lao Tzu, which were not considered serious, would be fatal. Thieving heaven Lao Tzu only had the cultivation of the mid-Dharma stage, but in reality he really could not take a beating. The plan of the Wood Luan demon slaves immediately came to nothing. This wait lasted for nearly 10,000 years. That year, the ancestor of the Wood Luan demon slaves had already become the meal of some powerful person in the 9 Shen Tower, while the Wood Luan demon slaves in the longevity grotto heavens secretly passed down the information that there was a flaw in the grotto heaven left behind by thieving heaven Lao Tzu, hoping that someone from the outside could use this flaw to reopen the passage to the outside world. For this reason, every generation of Wood Luan demon slaves had been secretly preparing for this. Because thieving heaven Lao Tzu had entered the grotto heaven from here, the Wood Luan demon race built their nest in a forest not far from here. With regards to this request of the Wood Luan race, Lu Ping naturally would not refuse. Since he was already here, taking away some of the Wood Luan's descendants was just a matter of convenience. Moreover, this matter would only benefit Lu Ping. The sky above the forest was connected to form a huge nest. When Lu Ping and Green Fox arrived, the two discovered that this was actually a small colony of Wood Luan. Apart from the 4 Dharma stage Wood Luan demon slaves, there were also 3 pairs of Wood Luan demon slaves. 2 pairs were at the core forging stage, while the other pair was only at the blood condensation stage. We have already gathered all of our tribe members. There are 10 of them in total, and they are all here now. However, we did not inform them of your arrival, so your followers will not meet them in the grotto heaven. The one who spoke was the Wood Luan cultivator with a silk scarf on his head. This person was Luan Xiu, and one of the two female Dharma adepts who came after him was his path companion, while the other was the path companion of the pale-faced cultivator. Lu Ping and Green Fox followed the 4 Dharma adepts of the Woodlawn race to the grotto heaven. They saw the pale-faced Woodlawn Qing raise his hand and slap an inconspicuous little tree near the nest. This little tree, which would at least be a top-grade spiritual material when it was fully grown, was instantly broken. However, the center of the broken little tree was hollow, and 2 snow-white eggs rolled out of it. Luan Qing carefully held the 2 snow-white eggs in his hands and caressed them for a while before handing the eggs over to Lu Ping under the dejected expression of his path companion. He said, "These are the descendants of my wife and I. Ever since our union, we have only left 5 descendants. Other than these 2 who have been hiding in secret, of the remaining 3, 2 have hatched into adults, a boy and a girl. Both are now at the core forging stage. The girl was brought to the Wuxing school by the 9 mystical tower in exchange for a girl of the same cultivation level as the path companion of the boy. As for the other egg, it was taken away by the 9 mystical tower before it hatched. It is highly likely that it has already become someone's stomach." At this point, Luan Qing's path companion's voice was slightly choked as she said, "Fortunately, the Woodlawn race has a secret technique that allows us to preserve these eggs for almost 100 years. Otherwise, if you had come 10 years later, my 2 children would have died in the eggs before they hatched." Lu Ping received the 2 eggs and carefully placed them into the house of gold. Immediately after, Luan Xiu took out another egg from the heart of another tree and handed it over to Lu Ping. Luan Xiu had also given birth to 5 eggs with his path companion. 3 of them hatched, 2 were male and 1 was female. Of the 2 sons, 1 was exchanged for a path companion from the Purple Sun Palace, while the other had his golden core dug out by the 9 mystical tower after he advanced to the core forging stage. As for the remaining 2 eggs, 1 of them had died due to the passage of time. Only this one was still alive. Soon after, Luan Xiu took out another egg from the roots of another tree and said, "This is fellow Taoist Luan Xiu's descendant." Both husband and wife were taken away by the 9 mystical towers Zhujiuan a few decades ago. I believe they were used to nourish her and help her break through to the pure Yang realm. I hope that you can take this egg with you and leave behind a descendant for fellow Taoist Luan Xiu. This wasn't the end of it. Luan Qing also took out another 2 eggs from an unknown place. These 2 eggs looked much fresher than the previous 4. They should have been born not too long ago. Sure enough, Luan Qing said, "These 2 eggs are the descendants of fellow Taoist Luan Xiu and I. I'll have to trouble you to take them with you." When Luan Qing found these 2 eggs, Lu Ping had already noticed that there were 2 more eggs together with these 2 eggs. However, Luan Qing didn't take them out. Lu Ping could guess that they were still somewhat worried about him. They were afraid that their descendants would enter the tiger's den right after leaving the wolf's den. Therefore, they didn't dare to hand over all of their descendants to Lu Ping. However, Luan Qing and Luan Xiu's descendants had been eggs for too long. They couldn't keep them, so they had no choice but to hand them over to Lu Ping. However, they still kept some of their descendants. However, Lu Ping still asked, "Since fellow Taoist trusts me so much, aren't you afraid that I'll turn your descendants into demon slaves in the future?" Luan Xiu smiled bitterly. "There are demon slaves on both sides. How bad can it be? Handing them over to fellow Taoist can be considered a ray of hope. I can only hope that fellow Taoist's compassion will allow the Woodlawn clan to continue to exist in the cultivation world." Lu Ping put away the 5 Woodlawn eggs and said, "I'll do my best." The 9 Profound Tower clearly didn't only have the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven to cultivate spiritual herbs. However, without a doubt, the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven was the 9 Profound Towers' most important place for cultivating spiritual herbs. Naturally, there were 9 Profound Towers cultivators stationed within the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven. However, due to the existence of the Woodlawn Yao slaves and the fact that the Heaven Grotto Heaven was incomparably vast, the cultivators guarding the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven rarely paid attention to what was happening inside. Thus, with the help of the Woodlawn Yao slaves and Lu Ping's deliberate evasion, the 9 Profound Towers Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven remained undetected. The 9 Profound Tower had sent cultivators to guard the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven. However, due to the existence of the Wood Luan Yao slaves and the incomparably vast Heaven Grotto Heaven, the cultivators guarding the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven rarely paid attention to what was happening inside. Thus, with the assistance of the Wood Luan Yao slaves and Lu Ping's deliberate evasion, the 9 Profound Towers Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven remained undetected. Not to mention, this was just one of the 9 Profound Towers Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven. During these 3 days, Lu Ping's harvest could be described as a fruitful journey. Putting aside the fact that the 3,000 Amethyst Bee soldiers had brought Lu Ping several jars of Amethyst Bee honey, Zilon would have to spend a long time to brew the Amethyst Royal Jelly. Just the amount of rare herbs that Debao had brought back was enough to make Lu Ping overjoyed. In order to not leave behind too obvious a trail, Debao had to pick and choose what he wanted. If the One Chi Higher Sky had appeared, Lu Ping would not have been able to finish using it even after a few hundred years. Of course, it was impossible for him to collect so many spiritual herbs in the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven in just 3 days. Other than this, what was even more precious was the 2 pill recipes that he had obtained from Lao Tzu the Thieving Heaven, the Thunder Calamity Pill and the Grade 6 Transcendence Pill. All the rare herbs that were recorded in the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven were collected by Debao. Of course, there were some rare herbs that Lu Ping did not recognize or that had already gone extinct in the cultivation world. Debao had also found many of them, allowing Lu Ping and Jinling to have a complete variety of spiritual herbs in their Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven garden. Lu Ping had also found a few rare tea trees in the Longevity Heaven. He had asked him to take their seeds and branches to see if they could be planted in the Golden House. The 3 days that Lu Ping had agreed on with Lu Qiner and the others had arrived. Before Lu Ping left the Longevity Heaven Grotto Heaven, Luan Qing and Luan Xiu had surprised Lu Ping again. This is the 7 Aperture Pear and Immortal Root? Lu Ping looked at the items in their hands. Even though he was surprised, he was very excited. These were all treasures that could be used to strengthen the physical body. Furthermore, this 7 Aperture Pear was clearly ripe. If he could find the 7 Aperture Pear's seeds in the fruit, wouldn't he be able to use them to nurture the 7 Aperture Pear tree? He could also try to nurture the Immortal Root. In terms of preciousness, these 2 items were not inferior to the Azure Wood Pure Jade fruit that Lu Ping had once obtained. These are the 2 spiritual items that we have been secretly collecting all these years. Today we will give them to you. Lu Ping took the 2 items and said with a serious expression, "Rest assured, the Wood Luan race will definitely not go extinct." Chapter 1205. Lu Ping did not expect to receive such a pleasant surprise before leaving the Longevity Sky Grotto. The 7 Aperture Pear and Immortal Root were rare treasures in the cultivation world that could significantly strengthen a cultivator's physical body. While these 2 treasures could not be compared to the White Jade Lotus Root and Bloody Skeleton Flower in Lu Ping's possession, they were comparable to the Verdant Wood Pure Jade fruit. Furthermore, Lu Ping had discovered that the 7 Aperture Pear was sufficiently ripe. There might even be a 7 Aperture Pear tree's seed inside. Moreover, the Immortal Root was also a hidden source of vitality. Perhaps it could take root again. If that was the case, it would truly be a blessing from the heavens. The Longevity Sky Grotto was vast. In just 3 days, Lu Ping had led Debao, the Amethyst Wasps, Samling and the rest through the areas that might be guarded by 9 mystical tower cultivators under the guidance of the Wood Luan. Furthermore, they had to carefully identify the types and ages of the spiritual herbs. As a result, they had only covered a third of the Longevity Sky Grotto. However, they had already reaped such a harvest in a third of the Longevity Sky Grotto. If they were to search through the entire winter, especially those areas guarded by 9 mystical tower cultivators, who knew what kind of harvest they would reap? When Lu Ping and the rest entered the Longevity Sky Grotto, Lu Ping turned to Luan Qing, who had rushed over to send them off. "I am deeply grateful for fellow Taoists' help. However, although we have been cautious, quite a number of spiritual herbs have disappeared during the winter. Not to mention, some of them are extremely valuable. If the 9 mystical tower investigates, I fear that fellow Taoists will not be able to escape responsibility. Luan Qing did not mind at all. She smiled. So what? We will die either way. None of us would Luan Yao slaves raised in the Longevity Sky Grotto have a good ending. The 9 mystical tower will not waste the value of a single wood Luan. It is only a matter of time before we die. Seeing the guilty expressions on Lu Ping's and the rest's faces, Luan Qing smiled and said, "Of course, we will do our best to save ourselves. However, at the very most, we can only say that we don't know anything. If the 9 mystical tower suspects you, we will need you to extricate yourself from this matter." Lu Ping nodded and turned to Azure Fox. "Let's begin." Qing Hu swung the heaven-stealing divine axe forward and tore a rift in the dimension. Lu Ping did the same thing, pulling on the sides of the rift and tearing it open. Then, the few of them rushed out of the rift and disappeared. Luan Qing was left staring blankly at the spatial crack closing before her, muttering, "I hope that the Wood Luan clan still has a chance." Outside 9 Profound Mountain, a stream of light, grand and majestic, descended upon the mountain, giving off an atmosphere that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The stream of light retracted to reveal a tall, bearded cultivator. Step by step, he walked towards the center of the mountain. The Tian-Yi Pavilion Master and San, and Chang Sankai Chang, smiled. "Qing. Brother," the other said with a cheeky smile, "Brother Wei is here." This unkempt cultivator was the #1 direct disciple of the 9 mystical tower, the brother in charge of the Yiyuan Pavilion, Wei Zhen. He was usually called Wei Yuan. Wei Yuan looked at the two of them and said in a low and hoarse voice, "What's wrong? You lost them?" Chang Sankai shrugged his shoulders and made an innocent expression, while the Yin and Yang brothel master revealed an ashamed expression and said, "Yes, we fell into their trap. They seem to have entered the thieving heaven inheritance for 3 days." Wei Yuan nodded. 3 days is not a long time. The treasures in the thieving heaven inheritance are hard to find. Usually, it takes decades to find all the treasures inside. Some greedy people even stay inside for a year or 2. Regardless of who entered, it seems that Azure Fox and Lu Tianping did not enter. Are there any traces of them now? The Tian-Yi Pavilion Master shook his head. "These people are very secretive. We have not been able to find them." Wei Yuan said, "That is to be expected. But once the people who entered the thieving heaven inheritance appear, Lu Tianping and Azure Fox will definitely come to their aid. At that time, we will not be able to let them escape again." The Tian-Yi Pavilion Master said, "Don't worry, brother. This time, we have made even more thorough arrangements. Lu Tianping and the rest will not be able to escape." Wei Zhen glanced at the Tian-Yi Pavilion Master and said, "Don't speak too early. I remember you saying that Lu Tianping and the rest will be captured before they can enter the thieving heaven inheritance, but what about now?" The Tian-Yi Pavilion Master's face turned red. Who would have thought that the formation that 5th junior brother comprehended from the underworld void formation could be seen through by Lu Tianping? Wei Zhen grunted coldly and said that Lu Tianping probably possesses a miraculous eye technique, and it's very likely that it's one of the 3 branches of the Tripure True Pupils. Moreover, it's very likely that he's mastered it, so it wouldn't be strange for him to be able to see through old 5th's formation. Wei Zhen explained, then asked Chang Sankai, "You have fought with that Lu Tianping before. How do you think his strength compares to mine?" Chang Sankai became more serious at this moment. He spat out the small stick in his mouth and thought for a while before saying, "From the situation at that time, he is only slightly stronger than me, but he must have hidden his strength at that time. As for him being able to defeat the 4th elder of the Tenma people, although it seems powerful, don't forget that it was on the Qingming River. This person is a cultivator from overseas, and he cultivates a water attribute cultivation method. His sword ability is like a surging wave or a surging flood, but his cultivation base is so dense that it makes one's hair stand on end. That was because he had the geographical advantage, so in my opinion, his true strength is about the same as Elder Tianma." Wei Zhen nodded. Most cultivators from overseas cultivate a water attribute cultivation method. Elder Tianma was indeed careless when he fought with Lu Tianping on the Qingming River. If he was facing a cultivator of the same level, I believe that Elder Tiamat would not have been so unwise. At this moment, the master of the Yin and Yang Tower hurriedly interrupted. That is to say that Lu Tianping's strength is at most equal to eldest senior brother's? Eldest senior brother has also fought with many great cultivators before, and those people were unable to do anything to eldest senior brother. Wei Zhen pondered. In that case, this person's strength should be about the same as mine? The master of the Yin and Yang Tower continued. If the strength is about the same, then it depends on the treasures in one's hands. Eldest senior brother has a second tribulation spirit treasure bestowed by the seniors of the sect, so this person will definitely lose to eldest senior brother. Chang Sankai curled his lips and said that Lu Tianping possesses several great innate and supreme divine abilities. If eldest senior brother is to face this person, you should be careful. The master of the Yin and Yang Tower said unhappily, Third brother, why do you always side with an outsider? Don't forget that eldest senior brother has already condensed 2 supreme divine abilities, and he also has 2 to 3 great innate divine abilities. If he adds on the power of the second tribulation spirit treasure, it is not an exaggeration to say that no third-generation cultivators in the entire cultivation world will be a match for him. Chang Sankai smacked his lips, and in the end, he simply kept the small wooden stick that he had just spat out in his mouth. In the end, he simply did not say anything, but this disgusted the master of the Yin and Yang Tower who was watching at the side. However, he did not open his mouth to say anything. Obviously, although they hated this bad habit of the master of the Yin and Yang Tower, they were already used to it. At this moment, it was the master of the First Origin Tower who took over and continued. This Lu Tianping had a nickname when he was in the North Sea. He was called Treasure Boy. This means that this person always has all kinds of treasures and trump cards on him, making it impossible for others to guard against him. It is hard to guarantee that this person does not have similar treasures on him. In short, this person is definitely a formidable opponent. After returning to the Thieving Heaven's inheritance, Lu Ping and the others did not leave immediately. Debao once again did a carpet search in this inheritance. Everyone had no choice but to stay and wait for him. At this moment, Lu Ping was not particularly anxious. He simply began to sort out the gains from the Longevity Grotto Heaven in the secret room. At the same time, he also began to refine the magic treasure pill furnace Thieving Heaven cauldron that had condensed a treasure restriction. As for the 5 wood luan eggs, Lu Ping had already instructed Qing Hu to conceal this matter. After returning to the Thieving Heaven's inheritance, he recalled Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua back to the Golden House. There was a forest in the Golden House, but Lu Qiner still built her nest on top of the spirit demon peach tree. However, at this time, there were 5 wood luan eggs in Lu Qiner's nest. Seeing Lu Qiner's frown, Lu Taohua gloated, Qin, looks like you really should get married. You haven't even become Luan Yu's Dao companion, but Big Brother has already given you the task of hatching the wood luan eggs. If Luan Yu finds out about this in the future, what will he think? Lu Qiner fiercely glared at Lu Taohua. Damned girl, you dare to talk nonsense, see if I don't tear your mouth apart. Lu Taohua giggled. Don't worry, Big Brother will not talk nonsense. Moreover, if you really hatch a wood luan bird, Luan Yu will be overjoyed. I believe that Luan Yu does not want the wood luan race to be extinct more than anyone else, right? Lu Qiner said, This grandaunt is doing her best for the wood luan race. I hope these 5 wood luan eggs can hatch smoothly. Lu Qiner saw Lu Taohua holding many bottles and jars as she walked around her main body. She asked, What are you doing? Lu Taohua said, These are the seeds of rare herbs that Big Brother brought out from Longevity Grotto Heaven. He hopes that they can be nurtured in the Golden House, so he asked me to take care of them. Lu Qiner smiled. In terms of nurturing spirit herbs, even the wood luan race might not be as good as Sister Peach Blossom. Inside Thieving Heaven's inheritance, Debao laughed like a madman. Found it, I knew it. Ancestor Thieving Heaven's dream was to raise the aptitude of the spirit-seeking mice. How could he not leave behind his inheritance before his death? Lu Ping was also very interested in Thieving Heaven Laozu's inheritance. He quickly asked Debao for this beast skin scroll that was sealed by layers of spirit-sealing talismans. Weighing the beast skin scroll in his hand, Lu Ping exclaimed, "The beast skin of a pure young beastkin cultivator, this is a big deal." A beast skin scroll that was made from the fur of a pure young beastkin cultivator's main body was naturally not a small matter. Lu Ping carefully opened the beast skin scroll. His eyes flickered with a faint light as he carefully read the contents. His expression became increasingly strange, making De Bao feel increasingly uneasy. Chapter 1206. Boss, what is it? Lu Ping threw the beast skin scroll to De Bao. See for yourself. Supreme divine ability, sky-stealing sun-shifting art. 3 basic divine abilities: flower grafting wood, palace shifting feather, stealing beam and swapping pillar. De Bao covered the beast skin scroll. His small eyes glanced to the left, then to the right, only to find that everyone was trying hard to hold in their laughter. Only then did he realize that he was reading the contents of the beast skin scroll in a soft voice. Everyone was attracted by his shout of finding thieving heaven Laozu's inheritance, so they naturally heard everything he said. De Bao said angrily, Okay, laugh if you want to, why do you have to hold it in so hard? Everyone burst into laughter. Normally speaking, great divine abilities or supreme divine abilities were mostly offensive and defensive, but there were also many unorthodox divine abilities with all kinds of wonderful methods. Strictly speaking, even Lu Ping's 3 pure true pupils was considered one of the unorthodox divine abilities. And De Bao's supreme divine ability inheritance cultivation method was even more peculiar. It could be said to be the most unorthodox of unorthodox methods. From the beginning to the end, this cultivation method inheritance did not aim to attack and kill enemies, but to teach people how to dodge, how to escape, how to hide, how to break formations, how to identify treasures, how to avoid tracking, in short, how to steal without anyone noticing. And among all these divine ability inheritances, the most profound was how to break formations. Back then, the reason why Thieving Heaven Laozu refined the Thieving Heaven Divine Axe was to have some achievements on the path of breaking formations. There was no formation in the world that could not be broken. It only depended on the time needed to break the formation, the strength of one's strength, and the clumsiness of the method. Sky-stealing sun-shifting art relied on the ingenuity and concealment of the formation, and the price to pay was mainly time. In order to covet the rare herbs in Longevity Grotto Heaven, Thieving Heaven Laozu spent a total of 50 years managing this inheritance, and finally avoided 9 profound towers' eyes and ears, secretly opening a gap in 9 profound towers' formation. But in the end, man proposes, heaven disposes. Thieving Heaven Laozu actually died in the hands of Longevity Grotto Heaven's Wood Luan Fei race. All of his plans failed. With De Bao's current cultivation level, he could barely cultivate the sky-stealing sun-shifting art. However, he could only focus on the basic divine powers at most. It wasn't easy to master all of them. Right now, I'm afraid that the 9 Profound Tower has already set up an inescapable net outside the 9 Profound Mountain. I'm afraid that once we reveal ourselves, we'll be surrounded and attacked by the entire 9 Profound Tower. Lu Ping and Green Fox arrived at the end of the tunnel. This was the exit of the Thieving Heaven Relic. Then what should we do? Actually, it is not impossible to force our way out. 9 Mystical Tower does not know that all of us have entered the Thieving Heaven inheritance. There should be a group of people outside 9 Mystical Mountain guarding against the people who entered the Thieving Heaven inheritance. We can catch them off guard. Lu Ping shook his head slightly and said, The 9 Mystical Tower isn't a fool. They've already fallen for our trap once, so how could they possibly give us another chance? We're alone, and this is the 9 Mystical Towers territory. No matter what, we don't have the upper hand. Green Fox said, Then what should we do? Since the 9 Profound Tower has already confirmed that the Thieving Heaven Relic is in the 9 Profound Mountain, they will find it sooner or later. Lu Ping smiled and said, It is easy for us to leave this place, and the 9 Profound Tower cannot surround us. However, I am worried that the 9 Profound Towers cultivators will chase after us after we leave. With the 9 Profound Towers' influence in the Central Plains, it is not an exaggeration to say that there is no place for us to hide in the Central Plains. Easy? Green Fox was slightly surprised and said, "As long as we can avoid their attacks, how will they know that we have entered the thieving heaven relic? We were clearly chased out of the 9 profound mountain by them. I am afraid that they will still be guarding the 9 profound mountain, waiting for the person who entered the thieving heaven relic to come out." Lu Ping smiled and said, "That is true, but it is inevitable that the 9 profound towers people will chase after us." Outside the 9 mysterious mountain, Chang Senkai was already so bored that he was about to fall asleep. The Yin-Yang Pavilion Master looked at the 5-element Pavilion Master beside him and said, "Over 10 days have already passed. 5th junior brother, is there still no activity in the 9 mysterious mountain? Could it be that they have already left?" The 5 elements Pavilion Master's face turned stiff. From the Yin and Yang Pavilion Master's words, it was obvious that the Yin and Yang Pavilion Master suspected that the formation he had set up in the 9 profound mountain had already been avoided. Thus, he said with dissatisfaction, "The thieving heaven Laozu is the best at hiding things. Perhaps the person who entered the relic is still looking for something inside." The Yin and Yang Pavilion Master was embarrassed, but after thinking about it, he felt that the Yin and Yang Pavilion Master was right. Thus, he asked the First Origin Pavilion Master, Wei Zhen, eldest senior brother, "In my opinion, the sect should just send 1 or 2 great cultivators to guard this place. With our cooperation, when the time comes, Lu Tianping and the others will be easily captured." "Why do we need to waste time here?" Wei Zhen glanced at him and said, "In the beginning, when we set up the ambush on the 9 profound mountain, you were the one who was the most proactive. Now, you are the one who has the least confidence. If the thieving heaven Laozu is going to alarm the great cultivators of our sect just because of one Lu Tianping, then where do we hide our faces?" The Yin and Yang Pavilion Master chuckled. Then, Chang Senkai, who was beside him, said casually, "In the end, the thieving heaven's relic is just not worth the attention of the sect. Although the thieving heaven Laozu was quite famous in the past, he was after all only a mid-dharma adept. He has stolen many things, but from the treasures that have been unearthed from the thieving heaven's relic, none of them are able to tempt the old demons of the sect. It's just that there are a lot of them. Naturally, they are not worth the attention of our dignified Holy Land sections." Chang Sansai's words were reasonable, but coupled with his sloppy demeanor, when these words were heard by others, it sounded like he was mocking and ridiculing their own sect. Fortunately, the people in the 9 profound towers seemed to be used to it. At this moment, the Yin and Yang Pavilion Master thought of something and said, "That year, the thieving heaven Laozu really entered one of the caves of our sect. If these people found the traces left behind by the thieving heaven Laozu and sneaked into our cave again, what should we do?" "Don't worry, that year, the thieving heaven Laozu only entered the longevity cave after breaking through our sect's protective formation. Our sect has already learned its lesson, and not only did we strengthen the protective formation, every 50 years, the protective formation will be activated again and become unrecognizable. If we want to break through the formation, we will have to start all over again," Wei Zhen said solemnly. "But then again, recently, the whereabouts of the Laozu in our sect seem to be a little uncertain. Could it be that something big is going to happen?" Chang Senkai spat out the wooden stick in his mouth and asked Wei Zhen, "Boss, you should know something here, right?" Wei Zhen chuckled and said, "Other than Mara, what else could it be?" Previously, the magic cloud city outside the Endless Mountains was destroyed by the Peacock royalty and Mara's army. Then, it was occupied by the demon clan of the Endless Mountains. How could the Lingyun Valley suffer such a big loss? Both sides fought openly and secretly for the magic cloud city, but unexpectedly, Mara's army took advantage of it. It was said that in a battle, both the human and demon clans lost more than 10 Dharma adepts under the siege of Mara, including 2 late Dharma adepts. In order to annihilate this Mara army, both sides had to temporarily put aside the fight for Magic Cloud City. The 6-winged Golden Cicada clan and Skyward Pavilion of the Endless Mountains joined forces with the other factions and finally defeated this Mara army. At the same time, both sides paid a huge price. After this battle, the calamity of Mara had gradually begun to spread deep into the heart of Middle-earth. The 9 Xian Tower could be said to be ready for battle. The great adepts in the sect were constantly sent out to patrol the territories controlled by the Nine Xian Tower, and at the same time, they gathered all the factions around the Nine Xian Tower to prepare for the upcoming calamity of Mara. How could they have the energy to put so much attention on the thieving heaven's inheritance? Furthermore, the first, second, third, and fifth-ranked direct disciples of the Nine Xian Tower were currently gathered at Nine Xian Mountain. If they still could not take down the thieving heaven's inheritance, the Nine Xian Tower would have nothing else to say. Stealing the sky and switching the sun, could this be what it means to steal the sky and switch the sun? Although the entrance to this treasure trove is within the Nine Xian Mountain, the truth is that the treasure itself is attached to the Nine Xian Mountain's sect-protecting formation. No matter how the formation operates, the treasure will not leave the formation. Hence, we will always be able to find the longevity paradise in this treasure trove. Thieving Heaven Laozu truly lives up to his reputation as an extraordinary person. The Nine Xian Tower naturally has no lack of formation masters, but they never discovered that the sect-protecting formation has already been tampered with. This is truly a marvelous skill, worthy of the name Thieving Heaven. Lu Ping and Qing, who discussed the stealing the sun and stealing art on the beast skin scroll while corroborating with the Thieving Heaven's inheritance. From time to time, they would click their tongues in wonder. And the true inheritor of this divine ability was currently opening a cave on a wall that had been opened, and this cave was a branch of a large spirit stone vein. Although the Nine Xian Tower would change the operation method of their sect-protecting formation every 50 years, they never thought that the Thieving Heaven's inheritance would be attached to the sect-protecting formation in an unimaginable way and always be connected to the Longevity Grotto Heaven. And the most recent operation of the formation had placed the Longevity Grotto Heaven and a large spirit stone vein together. And Lu Ping and the rest who were about to leave were once again stopped by Debao. He wanted to steal the spirit stones in this spirit stone vein. Of course, he only had his eyes on top-grade spirit stones. As long as the Nine Xian Tower could not find this place, Lu Ping was naturally not in a hurry. Furthermore, stealing the spirit stone vein had become a technical job in Debao's eyes. How could the Nine Xian Tower not discover that this spirit stone vein had never been stolen before? Stealing the sun and stealing art. This was the opportunity for Debao to immediately start practicing this divine ability. Chapter 1207. How could he not leave any traces when he stole the spirit stone vein? It seemed that the sky-stealing sun-shifting art was the key to solving this problem. However, Debao, who had just obtained this technique, did not seem to have the time to cultivate it. However, Lu Ping, Green Fox, and the others soon realized that they had underestimated Debao's talent in this aspect. Although the sky-stealing sun-shifting art was a supreme divine power, Debao seemed to be naturally familiar with this divine power. Even though he could not master even one of the basic divine powers in a short span of 10 days, the talent and achievements he had displayed in this aspect still left Lu Ping and the others dumbfounded. Debao himself seemed to be extremely interested in this divine power, which formed a stark contrast to his usual laziness in cultivation. In more than 10 days, Debao had mined most of the top-grade spirit stones in this branch vein. After another 10 days, Debao began to remove the traces in the vein and backfill the robber's hole bit by bit. He also used a divine power that he had yet to master to disguise the robber's hole as a barren spirit vein. There are still many flaws in this method. If a mind seeker sees this, he will definitely notice that someone has touched the spirit vein here. If I can master the sky-stealing sun-shifting art, I can even change the location of the other spirit stones in the surroundings, making the distribution of spirit stones on the entire vein more reasonable. Even an ordinary mind seeker will not be able to detect it inadvertently. Debao regretfully filled up the spirit vein tunnel, then restored the stone wall to its original state. Only then did he say, "Let's hope that the ore prospectors of the Nine Mystical Tower won't check this vein." As the saying went, the expert knows the ropes, while the layman enjoys the show. Debao clapped his hands and stood up. Only then did he see that everyone, including Lu Ping and the others, were dumbfounded. Lu Ping was slightly puzzled. "That's it? It's a complete spirit vein. Can a mind seeker tell? It would have been better if he didn't say this, but as soon as he said this, Debeo's tail instantly rose to the sky, and he said, "What do you know? If I was given a period of time to cultivate that, stealing a beam and replacing a pillar, divine ability, once I achieve initial success, then a half-baked or finder like Xian Wei would absolutely not be able to see through it." Everyone nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Amazing, amazing! Debeo was even more pleased with himself. However, Debeo's complacency only lasted for a moment. He saw Lu Ping divide up the small pile of top-grade spirit stones in the middle of the relic and said, "Qing Hu, Qing Lang, and Qing Hu will take 50, Qing Hu and Qing Lang will take 30, and the rest who have reached the late core forging stage will get 10. As for the rest, they were all kept by Lu Ping with a wave of his sleeves. Debeo suddenly became anxious and said, "My thing, you guys can't bully me like this. These spirit stones were dug out by me." Lu Ping glared at him and said, You're just a 4th stage core forging stage minor repairs. Do you think you can use the top-grade spirit stones? If you want the top-grade spirit stones, sure, but you'll have to increase your level to the late core forging stage first." Debeo's love for spirit stones was not because he was dissatisfied with Lu Ping's distribution. In fact, the number of top-grade spirit stones that Debeo had collected might not be less than that of Qing Hu and Qing Lang. It was just that Debeo's love for spirit stones was limitless, even if it was just a low-grade spirit stone. Perhaps this was a special characteristic of the spirit-seeking mice. The spirit stone vein that Debeo had excavated was only a branch of a large vein. It could not be compared to the top-grade spirit stones that Lu Ping had stolen from Yuanling Island. At that time, Lu Ping had stolen from the main vein, and the ratio of top-grade spirit stones was much higher than this branch vein. However, the number of top-grade spirit stones he had collected was still a huge amount. After finishing the exploration of the Thieving Heavens relic, Qin Hu asked worriedly, "How do you plan to leave this place?" The last time they had entered the relic, it was because Qin Hu and Lu Ping had continuously attracted the attention of the entire Jiushuan Tower. That was how Debeo had managed to enter the relic and use the divine space essence to successfully transport everyone here. However, it was actually easy to leave now. All he had to do was use the divine space essence. However, this way, he would not be able to retrieve the divine space essence. Once the Jiushuan Tower found the location of the divine space essence, the divine space essence would definitely be exposed. Once the divine space essence was exposed, the consequences would undoubtedly be disastrous for Lu Ping. The theft of the Yuanling Island's spirit stone vein, the death of the Yuan clan's formation grandmaster, Mr. Wen, the huge astronomical phenomenon in the sky above the divine space array, the resonance caused by the heaven creation relic, the death of the Yulin sect's great cultivator, all these mysteries would be revealed one by one. Thus, no matter what, Lu Ping would not take the risk of leaving this divine space essence here. After you leave the Jiushuan Tower's territory, head north and return to the Yingtian courtyard. It just so happens that Zilan's cultivation is at a crucial point in her breakthrough, so I will have to stay here for a while. Furthermore, without you by my side, it will be easier for me to break out of the encirclement. Qinghu knew that what Lu Ping said was easier, but in reality, if they stayed together, they would become a burden to Lu Ping. Even Qinghu herself could not say that she would be of any help in the battle against the Jiushuan Tower's heirs. Although Qinghu currently had the heaven-stealing divine axe, a spirit treasure that was far more powerful than her natal spirit treasure, the Xianhua Great Axe, which had reached the peak of spirit cultivation, the heaven-stealing divine axe's characteristics did not lie in its swift and fierce attacks. This did not match the characteristics of Qinghu's own cultivation. In her hands, the heaven-stealing divine axe could at most be considered a temporary spirit treasure. However, the reason why Lu Ping was willing to stay in the Thieving Heaven inheritance for a while was not only because of the large spirit stone vein, but also because the purple crystal queen bee was at a critical point in her cultivation. Who had ever seen a purple crystal queen bee at the mid-core forging stage? At the very least, Lu Ping had never heard of it. In fact, after coming out of the Longevity Grotto Heaven, the purple crystal queen bee asked Lu Ping for a low-grade earth spirit object, then went into seclusion to brew royal jelly. Although the purple crystal queen bee had a bountiful harvest in the longevity grotto heaven, with the purple crystal queen bee's advancement, Lu Ping was destined to be disappointed. Most of the purple crystal queen bee's royal jelly was used by the queen bee to increase her cultivation. Half a month's time was not enough to support the purple crystal queen bee's advancement, and it was not enough to support her through the most difficult period. However, the thieving heaven inheritance, which was drawn from the Jiuquan Tower, was enough to support the purple crystal queen bee through the most difficult period of cultivation. Qing Hu and the others left the thieving heaven inheritance one by one with the help of the spatial spirit. At this time, Lu Ping also let go of his hands and feet and prepared to do some meticulous preparations. After overcoming the first lightning tribulation, Lu Ping's physical body had once again improved significantly. However, it was now only as strong as a spiritual magic treasure. Although such a body was strong enough for cultivators of the same level, and was comparable to cultivators who had overcome the second lightning tribulation, Lu Ping naturally would not give up on the opportunity to further strengthen his physical body. However, whether it was the 7 aperture pair or the immortal root, the best way to use them was not for Dharma adepts like Lu Ping. Other than strengthening a cultivator's physical body, the 7 aperture pair and the immortal root also had another important function, which was to significantly increase a cultivator's potential. From this point of view, the value of the 7 aperture pair and the immortal root was slightly higher than that of the ashen wood pure jade fruit. However, there was another point to consider. In order to fully utilize the effect of increasing one's potential, the cultivator had to be a blood refining minor repairs cultivator who had yet to enter the blood condensation stage. It would not work if the cultivator was old or had a high level of cultivation. Furthermore, once the cultivator had reached the Dharma stage, who would care about increasing one's potential? To be able to obtain such a treasure, other than those with heaven-defying luck like the blood-refining minor repairs, which cultivator was not a Dharma adept with a high level of cultivation? As the saying went, treasures could only be found by luck, not by searching for them. In fact, it also required one's ability as a foundation. And for the Dharma adepts who obtained such a treasure, unless it was for a close family member, who would be willing to leave such a treasure for the blood-refining minor repairs to improve their potential rather than use it themselves to increase the strength of their physical body. This was actually something that could not be helped. Rare treasures were already rare, and Dharma adepts often faced life and death situations with every step they took. In order to increase the strength of their physical body, they would not hesitate to give up or even waste the other effects of the spirit fruit. However, after thinking for a long time, Lu Ping decided to use the 7 aperture pair first. This was because this 7 aperture pair was ripe enough, and there might be some seeds left in the core. And in fact, Lu Ping's guess was not wrong. Within this 7 aperture pair, there were indeed 2 dark green seeds. After being carefully taken out by Lu Ping, he handed them over to Lu Taohua. Cultivating spirit herbs, spirit fruits, and spirit trees was not only something that the Wood Luan race was good at. Lu Taohua, who was born from the spirit demon race, also had a natural advantage in this aspect. Although Lu Ping had another refined Dharma alchemy furnace in his hands, Lu Ping was, after all, not familiar with the heaven-stealing furnace. Furthermore, the Nachuan cauldron had already condensed 2 treasures and had been nurtured by Lu Ping's inner yuan for more than 100 years. He was already very familiar with it. However, with a treasure-level alchemy furnace as a backup, for an alchemy grandmaster like Lu Ping, he could use it to try out a new method of alchemy, and that was the continuous alchemy furnace division, secret technique. In short, in the process of alchemy, the Nachuan cauldron would be the main, and the heaven-stealing furnace would be the auxiliary. The 2 alchemy furnaces would cooperate with each other, and the heaven-stealing furnace would share the difficulty of alchemy with the Nachuan cauldron. In the end, it would achieve a method to increase the efficiency of alchemy and the success rate of alchemy. And this method was a secret alchemy technique that only alchemy grandmasters could come into contact with. For alchemy, it was undoubtedly a serious challenge that had to be faced. At the same time, it was also against the fact that the rare herbs used to refine Dharma-level elixirs were extremely rare. Moreover, the efficiency of alchemy was low, and the success rate of alchemy was low. Chapter 1208. For alchemy grandmasters, the continuous furnace separation was a secret alchemy technique that they had to challenge. The main reason for this was that almost all of the spirit herbs needed to refine Dharma stage elixirs could be regarded as natural treasures, especially for some of the spirit herbs needed for elixirs with special effects. However, unlike the elixirs before the core forging stage, which had a fixed number of 10 elixirs in each furnace, a large portion of Dharma stage elixirs were not like this. After being successfully refined with a 100% success rate, only 3 or 5 elixirs could be refined out of the furnace. Some of the more precious elixirs could only be refined out of the furnace. Elixirs that could be used to enhance the strength of the physical body were often extremely precious and difficult to refine. The Ashwood Pure Jade fruit had only been refined by Lu Ping, and he had used the spirit water nourishing elixir cultivation technique. The reason why Lu Ping was able to concoct 3 spirit water body nourishing pellets from the blood skeleton flower was because the blood skeleton flower was mature enough and its medicinal effects were beyond Lu Ping's expectations. The 7-orifice pair in Lu Ping's hand wasn't enough to concoct more than 2 spirit water body nourishing pellets in one go. But if he used the continuous cauldron pellet separation, he might be able to concoct one more. There were naturally many things to pay attention to when using continuous furnace separation. At least the quality of the supporting elixirs could not be too different from the main alchemy furnace. Otherwise, the quality of the elixir would also be weakened. As for the spirit fire needed for alchemy, under the Nachuan cauldron was naturally the silver spirit fire, and the spirit fire under the heaven-stealing cauldron was a little unique. It was a 6-inch high-grade earth-level spirit fire. It was a strange spirit fire that Lu Ping had found in the North Sea volcanoes. At that time, it was only 4 inches long, and it was called the 4-inch spirit fire. Now, after a period of growth, the 4-inch spirit fire had devoured a mid-grade and high-grade earth-level spirit fire in Lu Ping's hands, and had successfully advanced to become a 6-inch spirit fire. This method of growing by devouring other spirit fires was also an extremely rare type of spirit fire of heaven and earth, and it had a very deep understanding of alchemy. However, this type of flame had an extremely unique property. Every time the spiritual flame was upgraded, it could only be used to refine spirit pills that corresponded to the level of the spiritual flame. At this moment, the spiritual flame was 6 inches long and could only be used to refine late core forging spirit pills. If it wanted to refine early Dharma spirit pills, it would be impossible, unless the 6-inch flame could be upgraded to a 7-inch flame that could be used to refine Dharma spirit pills. At this time, there was a flash of fire in Lu Ping's hand, and a spirit fire started burning in his palm. It was indeed a low-grade heaven-level spirit fire. However, this spirit fire was not very suitable for refining elixirs, and it was also slightly violent in the forging of weapons. It could only be used to refine spiritual items. And at the moment when the spirit fire appeared in Lu Ping's hand, the 6-inch spirit fire that was floating in midair suddenly jumped into Lu Ping's palm like a cat that had smelled fish. With a series of crackling sounds, the 2 sparks actually merged together. More accurately, the low-grade heaven-level spirit fire was actually slowly being devoured by the 6-inch spirit fire. The 6-inch spirit fire itself did not change much, but the line of fire gradually grew from its original 6-inch length to 7 inches. It's done! Lu Ping's heart leaped with joy. The 7-inch spirit flame was now a genuine, low-grade heaven-level spirit fire. Moreover, in terms of refining early Dharma realm medicinal pellets, even the silver spirit flame could not compare to it. Although this kind of spirit fire could become the best spirit fire for refining elixirs at any stage of cultivation, it was a pity that this kind of spirit fire could only forever be used to refine elixirs of a certain stage. The true test of a cultivator's alchemy skills was whether or not he could split his attention to take care of the situation in the other alchemy furnace during the process of refining elixirs. This was a test of the cultivator's inner yuan, divine will, alchemy skills, and willpower. Fortunately, Lu Ping had long been prepared for this. Although the process of refining the 7 orifices elixir was a kind of torture, Lu Ping still managed to persevere and successfully split the elixirs between the alchemy furnaces during the solidification stage. Furthermore, it did not cause any damage to the solidification of the 7 orifices elixir in the main alchemy furnace. Finally, the 2 alchemy furnace treasures opened at the same time, and 2 elixirs, one big and one small, flew out of the alchemy furnace and were collected by Lu Ping, who had long been prepared. The 7 orifices elixir was originally considered a mid-dharma stage elixir, but after using the alchemy technique, the 7 orifices elixir in the main alchemy furnace was still at the mid-dharma stage, while the smaller 7 orifices elixir in the auxiliary alchemy furnace could only be considered an early dharma stage elixir. Fortunately, although Lu Ping's cultivation level was at the mid-dharma stage, early dharma stage elixirs were only slightly less effective for him, but they were not completely useless. The 2 7 orifices elixirs were refined by Lu Ping in succession, and it took him another 10 days or so. Lu Ping could clearly feel that his physical body had been strengthened. Although it was not enough to break through the shackles of the spirit cultivation stage, it was much closer. At least in front of a great practitioner who had passed the second thunder trial, the strength of Lu Ping's physical body was nothing to be afraid of. From the time that the 7 orifices elixir was refined to the time that Lu Ping had completely refined it, another month had passed. By now, Qin Hu and the others must have already left the 9 Xian Towers territory and were heading north. Furthermore, with the 9 Xian Towers methods, they must have already found out where Qin Hu and the others were. Lu Ping just did not know if the 9 Xian Towers practitioners would have the patience to wait in the 9 Xian Mountain after such a long wait. Lu Ping waved his hand, and a space door opened. The purple crystal bee king, which had grown to a size of 2 feet after advancing to the mid-core forging stage, flapped its wings and flew out of the house of gold. Big brother, I've advanced to the mid-core forging stage. The purple crystal bee queen's face was filled with joy, and Lu Ping's face was also full of smiles. Not bad. In the cultivation world, there had never been a purple crystal bee king in the core forging stage, let alone a queen bee that had advanced to the mid-core forging stage. When Zi Lan advanced to the core forging stage, she was able to brew royal jelly of higher quality. Now that she had advanced to the mid-core forging stage, Lu Ping wondered if she had gained some other abilities. Big brother, look. A small jade bottle was handed to Lu Ping. Inside the bottle was the royal jelly brewed by the purple crystal bee queen, which had advanced to the mid-core forging stage. Although Zilan had used most of the royal jelly brewed from the honey in the spiritual herb garden in the longevity grotto heaven to increase her cultivation, it was not easy for her to keep this much. Under the purple crystal queen's hopeful gaze, Lu Ping opened the jade bottle. The essence of 100 flowers, which was purer than the royal jelly from before, spread out from the jade bottle. Lu Ping's expression gradually changed from intoxication to surprise, and finally, a trace of shock. After Lu Ping quickly put away the jade bottle, he stuck a spirit sealing talisman on it. Then he asked excitedly, "Did you brew this after advancing to the mid-core forging stage?" The purple crystal queen was a little nervous when she saw the constant changes in Lu Ping's expression. At this moment, when she saw Lu Ping's irrepressible joy, the purple crystal queen smiled proudly and said, "Of course." However, as if she suddenly thought of something, the purple crystal queen was a little discouraged. It's just that after Zilan advanced to the mid-core forging stage, the amount of royal jelly that she can brew has been greatly reduced. Previously, she could extract 1 bottle out of 10 bottles of purple crystal honey. Although the quality of the royal jelly has increased, she may not be able to extract 1 bottle out of 20 bottles. At this time, Lu Ping had already calmed down. He nodded and said, "If such a heaven-defying treasure could be produced in large quantities, that would be a real problem." In this small bottle of royal jelly, Lu Ping not only detected the pure and thick taste of the purple crystal bee's essence of 100 flowers, but it also had a greater auxiliary and enhancement effect than the previous royal jelly. However, all of this paled in comparison to the new thing that appeared in the royal jelly. Lu Ping felt the power of vitality in the royal jelly brewed by the purple crystal queen bee, which had advanced to the mid-core forging stage. After the purple crystal queen bee advanced to the mid-core forging stage, it condensed the essence of 100 flowers to refine the purple crystal royal jelly. It actually melted the vitality of the 100 flowers into it, causing the purple crystal royal jelly to suddenly become a treasure comparable to a longevity pill. It could be used to directly increase a cultivator's lifespan. With Lu Ping's current knowledge as an alchemy grandmaster, he was 80 to 90% sure that he could use the purple crystal royal jelly as the base and combine it with some other spirit herbs to refine a new kind of longevity pill. In terms of the concentration of vitality contained in the purple crystal royal jelly, this kind of longevity pill with the purple crystal royal jelly as the base might not be able to increase one's lifespan as much as the myriad wonder jade nectar. However, with the purple crystal queen bee, Lu Ping could continuously obtain the royal jelly. In other words, once Lu Ping was able to concoct this kind of longevity pill, it would be an endless supply. In fact, the myriad wonder jade nectar could be produced continuously in the myriad poison nectar or the myriad poison source liquid. However, there was a harsh condition, and that was that Lu Ping had to constantly search for highly poisonous places so that the myriad poison nectar could absorb the poison and condense a drop of the myriad wonder jade nectar. Not only was this process dangerous for Lu Ping, but Lu Ping also did not have the time to search for highly poisonous places all over the world just for a few drops of the myriad wonder jade nectar. Moreover, the speed at which the myriad wonder jade nectar was condensing was extremely slow, and it was also extremely small. It was not as satisfying as the purple crystal royal jelly. Outside of the Nine Shen Mountain, the master of the Yin and Yang building could no longer remain calm. He spoke to Wei Zhen, who was beside him. "Boss Wei, waiting like this is not a solution. Who knows whether Lu Tianping will come or not? We have already received news that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits have appeared near the Yulon River and are heading north." Wei Zhen did not pay attention to the master of the Yin and Yang building. Instead, he reached out his hand and waved in midair. A sound-transmitting talisman appeared out of nowhere in his palm. Wei Zhen chuckled and said, "Second brother, the sect has already ordered that all disciples are not allowed to leave the sect's territory. Even if you want to chase after them, I'm afraid you can't go against the sect's orders, right?" At this moment, not only the master of the Yin and Yang building, but even Chang Sankai and the master of the Five Elements Pavilion had solemn expressions on their faces. They no longer cared about the fleeing Cyan Fox 9 bandits. They asked in a serious voice, "Something big is going to happen to the sect. Boss Wei, do you know what it is?" Chapter 1209. The Nine Mystical Tower had ordered all of its disciples to stay out of its territory. The Yin-Yang Tower Master and the others immediately frowned and asked, "Boss Wei, did the sect send out something big?" Wei Zhen nodded his head and said, "It said that during this period of time, the demonic Luo army has emerged from all over the Central Plains, causing the entire Central Plains to be in a state of panic. Recently, more and more demonic Luos have appeared within the Nine Mystical Houses' sphere of influence. The various patrol teams are simply unable to kill them all. Furthermore, there's already news that they've encountered at least 2 Azuras in the process of exterminating the demonic Luos. Furthermore, the demonic Luos within our sect's sphere of influence have begun to gather." What? It was not only the 2 Rites Pavilion Master, even the carefree Chang Sankai was startled when he heard this. He said, "The evil Luo sect has gathered on a large scale. What do they intend to do? Could it be that they intend to besiege the 9 Profound Pavilion?" Wei Zhen shook his head and said, "It's hard to say. It's not like Mara's army has never gathered to attack a sacred land in the history of the cultivation world. There's no guarantee that they're not targeting our 9 Mystical Tower." The Yin-Yang Tower Master trembled and said, "Even if they're targeting us, we'll just make sure they don't return." No one said anything. They knew that the Yin-Yang Tower Master was right, and the 9 Mystical Tower naturally had the confidence to do so. However, if Mara's army really did gather to attack the 9 Mystical Tower, then it wouldn't be a battle that would end in a short period of time. How could there be no deaths in a battle? There's another piece of news. Wei Zhen's expression was somewhat solemn. Someone has discovered the tracks of Qin Hu and the others. They're already near the Yulon River, and they're still heading north. Everyone looked at each other, and in the end, the Yinyang Tower Master said in disbelief, "That can't be. They still have companions trapped in the thieving heaven's inheritance." At this time, Chang Sankai interrupted and asked, "Is there any news of Lu Tianping?" A look of approval appeared on Wei Zhen's face. He said, "That's the strange part. The news didn't mention Lu Tianping, which means that he isn't with Qin Hu and the others." "That's strange. Could it be that Lu Tianping wants to charge into the trap we set up himself?" The five-element pavilion master asked curiously. He knew how much effort had been put into the Nine Mysterious Mountain recently. Wouldn't it be too much of a pity if it were to be wasted like this? The Yin and Yang brothel master curled his lips and said, "Perhaps Lu Tianping is no longer in the vicinity, and his companions have already left. How can he be our match by himself? Or perhaps the person who entered the thieving heaven inheritance has already secretly left." Impossible! The master of Five Elements Pavilion was very confident in his trap and said, "As long as the people who entered the thieving heaven inheritance are still in the Nine Shen Mountain, there is no way they won't be discovered by me. I can even borrow the power of the sect's protective formation to monitor the entire Nine Shen Mountain. They won't be able to escape." They all looked surprised. They didn't expect the master of the Five Elements Tower to have reached such a level of attainment in formations. He was able to use the sect-protecting formation for his own use, and they didn't even realize it. Just when everyone was thinking about their own matters, the master of Five Elements Pavilion's expression suddenly changed. He said, "Oh no, someone suddenly appeared in the Nine Shen Mountain." Everyone was shocked. Wei Zhen opened his mouth and asked, "Where?" The master of Five Elements Pavilion pointed with his finger and said, "Northwest, he is currently escaping towards that direction." Wei Zhen shouted, "Fifth brother, stop him. The rest of you, follow me." At the bottom of the tunnel of the thieving heaven inheritance, Lu Ping was holding the key that Debao used to enter the inheritance. It was an axe that was less than a foot long. It looked almost the same as the thieving heaven divine axe, but it was only a high-grade magic tool. But at this time, Lu Ping was carefully playing with the axe in his hand. He smiled lightly and said, "This is a bit interesting. I didn't notice it before." He slammed his palm against the stone wall at the side of the tunnel, and a series of runes immediately appeared on the stone wall. At the same time, a simple teleportation formation gradually took shape, and in the center of the formation, a small stone that was originally crystal clear suddenly became incomparably resplendent. Lu Ping didn't activate the teleportation array. Instead, he reached out and plucked the small stone from the center of the teleportation array. The glowing stone immediately turned back into a crystal-clear void spirit, and the simple teleportation array began to crumble. Countless runes wandered on the stone wall and returned to their original positions. And at this time, Lu Ping slammed his palm on the stone wall. A bluish-purple light immediately entered the stone wall. With a loud boom, the giant stone in the valley outside the inheritance suddenly split open. A door opened and Lu Ping calmly walked out. The giant stone closed. Lu Ping looked around. Then, light flashed under his feet and he immediately flew towards the northwest direction. Not long after Lu Ping flew out, the master of Five Elements Pavilion immediately discovered Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping was slightly startled and said, "What a brilliant formation." The master of Five Elements Pavilion had set up many formation traps in the Nine Shen Mountain and borrowed the power of the entire Nine Shen Mountain's protective formation. After flying for a while, Lu Ping found that he was stuck in a swamp. His flying speed suddenly decreased by a lot. The Nine Shen Tower's protective formation was not a short distance away from the Nine Shen Mountain. To be able to use the protective formation as one's own, this kind of method was not simple. It seemed that the person who set up the formation was no doubt a formation master. Among the Nine Shen Tower's 9 direct lineage masters, the master of Five Elements Pavilion, Ho Yang, was the most proficient in formations. Originally, When Lu Ping covered Debao to sneak into the thieving Heaven's inheritance, he constantly avoided his surveillance. Moreover, he also discovered the hidden formation of 9 Shen Tower on the hill. This made the Master of 5 Elements Pavilion lose a lot of face. This also made Lu Ping look down on him. But today, he saw that this person's attainments in formations were really good. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ping's divine sense detected no less than 3 rays of light approaching him from different directions. But at this time, Lu Ping was deeply trapped in the spiritual energy quagmire of the 5 elemental array formation, unable to extricate himself. This is really troublesome. If I get surrounded, even if I don't die, a layer of my skin will be peeled off. Lu Ping flipped his right palm and the Linglong cauldron appeared in his hand. The invisible spiritual energy whirlpool around him was immediately drawn in, and under the control of the Linglong wine cauldron, it was slowly smoothed out. Lu Ping also temporarily escaped from the formation quagmire. The ray of light under his feet suddenly brightened, and he continued to fly towards the northwest. However, before he could fly for more than 5 kilometers, Lu Ping's body suddenly became heavy, as if his entire body was suddenly pressed down by a mountain. Another formation. The spiritual energy under Lu Ping's feet quickly gathered, and a huge spiritual energy lotus suddenly bloomed. It was exactly the same as the rank 9 white jade lotus in Lu Ping's heart space, and it immediately blocked the formation below him. Lu Ping's body relaxed, and the ray of light under his feet shone even brighter as he sped up towards the outside of 9 Profound Mountain. However, just these 2 restrictions had greatly shortened the distance between Lu Ping and his pursuers. Although Lu Ping's successive escapes had greatly shocked the 9 Profound Towers cultivators, Wei Zhen had already arrived several kilometers behind Lu Ping. He shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" The deafening roar brought with it waves of sound that caused Lu Ping to frown. Although Lu Ping did not care about this kind of sound attack, Lu Ping had already seen through the divine will hidden within the sound waves. Even so, Lu Ping had no choice but to be cautious. This person was obviously someone who had a high level of attainment in the practice of divine will. Although his level of practice was the same as Zhou Dongwang's at the mid-Dharma stage, the level of his divine will was no less than that of ordinary great adepts. If ordinary adepts of the same level fought with him, they would usually be at a disadvantage under this attack of his. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lu Ping. Not to mention that Lu Ping had a terrifying level of divine will that far exceeded that of ordinary great adepts. Just the cloud sails and the jade soul fire would be enough to render this level of divine will attack useless, and it could even cause him to suffer greatly. However, right at this moment, a huge bell rose above Lu Ping's head. It was an imitation of the first Calamity Spirit treasure, the vast ocean bell. With a loud dang, a similarly huge sound wave surged and rolled towards the sound attack caused by the roar behind him. The 2 of them instantly disappeared into thin air. Wei Zhen's heart leaped with joy. This level of divine will was something that he was proud of, and the few remarkable powers that he had cultivated with his strong divine will were originally Wei Zhen's trump cards. Wei Zhen had originally wanted to use these few remarkable powers to gain the upper hand in the fight against the top disciples from the other Holy Lands. Unexpectedly, he had used them on Lu Ping first today. From Wei Zhen's point of view, although the person who was escaping had used an extremely strange sound wave to cancel out his roar, the divine will hidden within the roar was his real trump card. However, just as Wei Zhen was anticipating the person who was escaping in front of him to let out a cry of pain and then fall from the sky while clutching his head, he felt his divine will slash into a vast ocean. At most, it only made a few waves. Oh no! Wei Zhen's heart trembled. As an expert in the divine will, he naturally knew that this phenomenon occurred because the person in front of him had a much higher level of divine will cultivation than him. This feeling of punching air was a sign that the opponent had set a trap and was about to counterattack. Wei Zhen hurriedly withdrew his divine will. However, he was caught unprepared and had lost the upper hand. How could the opponent let him go so easily? A green flame suddenly lit up on Wei Zhen's divine will saber, and a sharp pain almost drilled into Wei Zhen's brain. It's the green soul fire. I was too careless. Fortunately, although Wei Zhen's attack had caused Lu Ping's flight to slow down, Hou Yang, the master of the Yin and Yang Tower, had already charged at him. The pair of Yin and Yang flying swords in his hands hovered on both sides, covering each other up. It was an extremely wonderful divine will swordsmanship. However, the same two sword lights also hovered and turned into countless sword lights that intertwined in all directions. The Yin and Yang sword formation of the master of the Yin and Yang Tower was instantly broken. Lu Tianping of the North Sea, how could it be you? Chapter 12:10. The master of the Yin and Yang Tower was a genuine sword practitioner, and this set of Yin and Yang sword was also a rare divine swordsmanship inheritance in the cultivation world. However, it was instantly broken by the person in front of him. How could Hou Yang, the master of the Yin and Yang Tower, not be shocked? However, what really shocked him was not the divine swordsmanship of the person in front of him, but the pair of flying sword spiritual treasures. As Lu Ping continued to defeat powerful enemies in the Central Plains, his reputation as the North Sea Water Sword Immortal was now on par with the heirs of the sacred grounds. His pair of flying swords that flowed like a thin stream also became famous, and many sword cultivators knew about them. When Lu Ping revealed his pair of flying swords and broke Hou Yang's Yin and Yang sword, the master of the Yin and Yang Tower knew that the person in front of him was actually Lu Tianping. However, why was he in Jushuan Mountain at this time? Wasn't he forced out by their joint efforts? Then who was the person who entered the thieving heavens inheritance? As Hou Yang pondered, Lu Ping had completely broken away from his control. With a flash of conveyance light, Lu Ping left Hou Yang behind again. However, at this time, Chang Sankai had already arrived. We meet again. It was rare for Chang Sankai to be serious. The pair of symbols in his hands flew out and chopped toward Lu Ping one after the other. Then, a sneer flashed across his face. Let's see where you can escape this time. However, the sneer froze on his face before it dissipated. His pair of symbols spun and chopped, but what they hit was a splash. Oh no, I've been tricked. Chang Sankai wanted to retreat quickly. At the same time, the symbols spinning around him suddenly grew bigger and protected him tightly. He was on full alert, ready to receive Lu Ping's thunderous blow. However, what Chang Sankai heard was the rumbling roar of galloping horses that seemed to come from the horizon. When he looked up, he saw a vast ocean descending from the sky. That ocean was basically a river of swords. This kind of surging momentum seemed to be able to completely shatter all obstacles. Without waiting for Chang Sankai to cry out in alarm, the river of swords did not break the pair of copper symbols protecting Chang Sankai. Instead, it wrapped around Chang Sankai, who looked like he was carrying a copper turtle shell on his back, and rolled him 3 miles away. Only then did the river of swords gradually disappear. What kind of divine ability was this? How come no one had ever mentioned it before? For a cultivator like Lu Tianping, the divine arts he usually used in fights of magical powers would naturally be specially collected by people who paid attention to him. After that, they would be obtained by many people who paid attention to him. Naturally, this included the direct lineage cultivators of the 5 great sacred lands of Middle-earth. This could also show how much importance they attached to Lu Tianping. However, the great divine ability that Lu Tianping suddenly performed now had great prowess, giving off an unstoppable aura. Chang Sankai was protected by the pair of copper symbols, and Lu Ping did not seem to have any intention of harming him. This sword river of raging waves was enough to completely tear Chang Sankai into pieces. What a brilliant sword art divine ability! A thought suddenly flashed through Chang Sankai's mind. He seemed to have seen this sword art divine ability before. It was in the forest by the Qingming River. It was just that back then, Lu Ping did not use sword kinesis. Instead, he used spiritual qi to form waves, testing each other out. At that time, the celestial river of spiritual qi did not have such prowess and did not have the embryonic form of a great divine ability. At most, it was just a minor divine ability. It was only when Lu Ping performed it that its prowess became much greater. And what Chang Sankai had faced earlier was an authentic great sword art divine ability. This person was actually creating his own great sword art divine ability, and by the looks of it, he had already succeeded. This thought flashed through Chang Sansai's mind for no reason. Then, this thought brewed in his mind more and more intensely. He did not notice that because he was repelled, there was a gap in the encirclement that surrounded Lu Tianping. Just when Lu Ping used his divine sense divine ability to make Wei Zhen suffer a loss, and then used his sword art divine ability to repel Ho Yang and Chang Sankai, the encirclement that the three heirs of the Nine Mystical Tower had encircled Lu Ping was broken. However, at this moment, a faint protective array formation gradually formed around Lu Ping. The five-element pavilion master slowly heaved a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, even if this hastily formed array formation cannot stop you, it only needs to delay your speed for a moment. Once Big Senior Brother and the others surround you again, you will definitely lose this battle. Although Lu Ping had the upper hand against the three heirs of the Nine Mystical Pavilion, the Five Elements Pavilion Master could already tell that Lu Tianping was no match for the three of them. Wei Zhen and the others never expected that the one who escaped from the Nine Mystical Mountain would be Lu Tianping. The Five Elements Pavilion Master didn't expect Lu Tianping to be the one who escaped from the Nine Mystical Mountain. Just as the Five-Element Pavilion Master finished setting up the array formation, he saw that Lu Ping had already forced Chang Sankai to retreat and was rushing towards him. The Five-Element Pavilion Master laughed in his heart because he could already see that Wei Zhen and the others had already surrounded Lu Ping. Even if Lu Tianping could break the array formation, so what? Bao Wuxing was the fifth heir of the Nine Mystical Tower. He did not rely solely on his attainments in array formations to secure his position as the fifth heir of the Nine Mystical Tower. However, Bao Wuxing's expression changed immediately. A four-colored light suddenly appeared on Lu Ping's body, and Lu Ping crashed directly into the array formation that Bao Wuxing had set up. Four-colored restriction breaking talisman. Amidst Bao Wuxing's exclamation, the protective shield of the array formation was torn apart like a thin piece of paper. Bao Wuxing, who had rushed up in a hurry, was unable to contend with the oncoming Lu Ping due to his lack of preparation. He was pushed back dozens of feet by Lu Ping's sword, making way for Lu Ping to escape. At this moment, the Two Elements Pavilion Master and the Three Elements Pavilion Master did not expect that Lu Ping would be able to break the array formation that the Five-Element Pavilion Master had set up so easily. The two of them had not yet recovered from the previous two sword attacks from Lu Ping. They could only watch helplessly as Lu Ping broke through their encirclement and swaggered away. Lu Tianping, eat my attack. It was Wei Zhen, the first heir of the Nine Mysteries Pavilion, who had a well-deserved reputation. Although he had suffered a loss in the Divine Thoughts attack, he was the first to be pushed back by Lu Ping. Now, he was the first to recover and closely followed behind Lu Ping. However, if Lu Ping insisted on escaping, there was nothing he could do. He could only attack with all his strength in an attempt to injure Lu Ping. Wei Zhen was holding a black stone ball in his hand. He suddenly threw it up, and the black stone ball suddenly expanded in midair. Like a falling meteor, it smashed towards Lu Ping's head. In an instant, Lu Ping's figure was shrouded by the shadow of the huge stone. Lu Ping had already sensed that although the shadow could not confine Lu Ping's figure, it seemed to be guiding the huge stone in midair to smash towards Lu Ping. This black stone ball was actually a spiritual treasure, a second tribulation spiritual treasure. Lu Ping abruptly turned around in midair, but his body was still flying backward. The thin water flow swords swirled in the air and spiraled around each other. A monstrous sword wave swept up from the bottom to the top, sweeping towards the falling Hei Shimaru. Great river flows east sword technique. This time, he did not use the sword technique that Lu Ping had created himself. Instead, he used the fundamental great technique of the Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique, which was the great sword technique that Lu Ping had learned from the North Sea wave listening technique. A monstrous wave rose into the sky, causing the huge black stone to sway in midair. However, it could not stop the huge stone from falling. However, Lu Ping did not expect to be able to stop the falling stone. All he needed was a split second of shaking from the huge stone. Lu Ping used his space magic and took advantage of the moment when the huge stone was shaken by Lu Ping. He took a step forward and immediately broke free from the shadow cast on Lu Ping's body by the huge stone. The huge black stone fell with a loud bang. The entire Nine Xian Mountain could feel a huge tremor. A huge crater appeared in the middle of Nine Xian Mountain. Water flowed out of the crater and swirled up muddy sand. Lu Ping spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his figure took advantage of the huge force brought by the huge stone to fly backwards at a much faster speed. In one fell swoop, he increased the distance between him and the 4 Nine Xian Tower heirs. A moment later, he disappeared into the horizon. North Sea Lu Tianping really lives up to his reputation. Wei Zhen knew that it was too late to chase after him. He simply floated in midair and did not move. Instead, he stretched out his hand towards the crater created by the huge stone. A black stone ball the size of a thumb flew out of the muddy water and landed in Wei Zhen's hand. At this time, the other three also caught up to Wei Zhen. Chang Senkai looked in the direction that Lu Ping had left and asked, "Boss Wei, are we still going to give chase?" Wei Zhen glanced at him and said, "Chase? Can you catch up?" The 5 Elements Pavilion Master sighed and said, "How embarrassing. The 4 of us joined forces and still let him escape." However, the 2 Elements Pavilion Master said, "You can't say that. Who knew that this person would actually hide in Nine Xian Mountain? We were caught off guard and let him escape. Moreover, this person was already seriously injured by Boss Wei. This time we did not lose." Chang Senkai said with disdain, "4 against 1, and you still let him escape. You didn't lose the formation, but you lost the people." The 2 Elements Pavilion Master's face turned red and was about to say something. However, the 5 Elements Pavilion Master said, "Strange, how did this Lu Tianping hide in Nine Xian Mountain? We had already chased him away that day, so why did he suddenly jump out? How did he avoid my formation detection and our sex cultivators searching Nine Xian Mountain?" At this time, Wei Zhen suddenly said, "What else could it be? He must have already entered the thieving heavens treasure trove." Wei Zhen's words caused Chang Senkai and the others to be in disbelief. One after another, they said, "That's impossible. When the treasure trove opened, this Lu Tianping was chased away by us. He didn't even enter Nine Xian Mountain, so how could he open the treasure trove? Moreover, if that Lu Tianping really came out of the treasure trove, how could he not hear the loud sound of the treasure trove opening when he came out?" Chapter 12:11. Wei Zhen didn't pay attention to everyone's nonsense and directly said, "Inform our sex array masters, mine prospectors, and the like. They must find the heavenly abode within half a month. I want to see what's inside." However, this first Origin Tower Master was destined to be disappointed. With the help of spirit-seeking Mouse DeBeo, Lu Ping had already looted most of the treasures in the treasure. Even if they found it, they would not be able to obtain anything. However, the stone wall leading to the Longevity Cave and the Spirit Stone Mine at the entrance of the tunnel might be discovered by them. However, these things originally belonged to the 9 Mystical Tower. The only worry was that the 9 Mystical Mountain would become desperate and chase after Lu Ping and the others. Fortunately, these 2 spatial passages were well hidden. Hopefully, even if the 9 Mystical Towers cultivators found the treasure, they would not discover the 2 spatial passages leading to the 9 Mystical Towers protective array. Of course, the first Origin Tower Master was more concerned about how Lu Tianping entered the thieving heaven treasure. However, he knew that since Lu Tianping was able to break out of the 9 Mystical Mountains encirclement, even if they found the thieving heaven treasure, Lu Tianping would not leave any traces of him entering the thieving heaven treasure for the 9 Mystical Towers people to investigate. Moreover, the 9 Mystical Tower would not even think of the Hollow Spirit. At this time, the 5 Elements Tower Master said, "Lu Tianping has been seriously injured by eldest senior brother's black ink bead. Even if we cannot catch up to him, he will not be too far away. Moreover, he will definitely find a place to heal his injuries. I think we should instruct our sex cultivators to search everywhere. Once we find him within our sex sphere of influence, We can immediately surround and annihilate him." Chang Senkai was silent, but the Two Elements Tower Master clapped his hands and laughed. "Old 5, this is a good idea." However, this Lu Tianping was able to block Eldest Wei's black ink bead and escape. Although this ability is amazing, I am afraid that his injuries are now like an arrow at the end of its flight. Wei Jin hesitated for a moment before nodding. Just as he was about to open his mouth to agree, a sharp sound pierced through the air and rang in everyone's ears. Wei Jin was not the only one. Even the other 3 cultivators wore solemn expressions. When they turned to the northeast, they saw streaks of light of various colors rising into the sky, transforming into colorful clouds that formed a huge Xian character in the sky that could be seen by all cultivators within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. Wei Jin's face sank. Sect leader Xian Yun is giving us a warning. We need to return quickly. The Yinyang building master asked curiously, "Who has eaten the guts of a leopard, daring to provoke our building?" Wei Jin barked, "Shut up and return." Lu Ping had used Wei Jin's attack to speed up his retreat, but he did not expect that the power contained in that attack would be so powerful. Although Lu Ping also had a second tribulation spirit treasure, the 2 broken mantis scissors, if the 2 spirit treasures were to clash head-on, the 2 broken mantis scissors would definitely lose. Although Lu Ping had managed to escape the attack of Wei Jin's spirit treasure, he was still injured by the aura contained in the spirit treasure. His internal organs were injured, and he could no longer suppress the mouthful of blood in his chest. Fortunately, Lu Ping's body was strong. After consuming the 7 aperture pill in the Thieving Heaven's inheritance, his body's cultivation had risen to another level. Although this attack had injured Lu Ping's internal organs, his injuries were not as serious as the 5 Elements Tower Master and the others had expected. Lu Ping flew all the way out of the 9 Profound Mountain, and the 9 Profound Tower's direct disciples behind him could no longer catch up. Lu Ping then turned northwest, preparing to return to the North Sea through the Ying Tian courtyard. However, just as Lu Ping reached the shore of the Qingming River, the scene in front of Lu Ping made him tremble with fear. Countless devil azuras plunged into the water from the other side of the Qingming River like dumplings being dropped into a pot. Deep gullies were left on the ground. Countless wind azuras were peeking out from the 3 tornadoes. The forest by the shore was ablaze. However, the forest was still green. The blazing fire did not destroy much of the forest. At this time, a thin layer of ice gradually formed on the surface of the Qingming River. This layer of ice also extended all the way to the other side of the river, as if a bridge had been built on the surface of the Qingming River. The countless Mara soldiers who had been waiting by the shore all stepped on the ice and headed to the other side. Big and small Mara were everywhere, and blood Mara could be seen everywhere. Traces of Jade Mara had also been detected by Lu Ping, and even the aura of Azuras had been detected by Lu Ping twice in a short period of time. What were they trying to do? After all, this place was still within the 9 Profound Towers' sphere of influence. How could the 9 Profound Tower ignore Mara's massive invasion? However, what if Mara's army was originally aiming for the 9 Profound Tower? He absolutely could not let Mara's army entangle him. With such an overwhelming scene, if he really fell into Mara's heavy encirclement, Lu Ping would not even be able to cause a splash before he was swallowed up by Mara's army. Lu Ping did not dare to flee south. At this time, Mara's army was also heading south, and it seemed like their destination was very clear. If he continued to head south, he might attract the attention of some powerful existence in Mara's army. If he was killed, there would be no way for him to explain himself. Lu Ping could only head west in an attempt to shake off the pursuit of Mara's army. He hoped that this time, Mara's army had gathered here with a purpose. If that was the case, there was a chance that he would not attract the attention of Jade Mara, who was at the same level as him, or even someone with a higher cultivation. Lu Ping followed the Qingming River for a few dozen kilometers in a single breath. The number of Mara's army on the river's surface gradually decreased, but Lu Ping did not relax at all. Instead, his expression became more and more solemn. At this time, within the range of Lu Ping's divine sense, He could clearly sense that about 30 to 40 kilometers south of the Qingming River, a large number of Mara's auras had appeared. Moreover, there was no lack of existences of the same level as Mara. Furthermore, further away, the auras of Mara's divine sense were even more rampant and tyrannical. However, there was a limit to the range of Lu Ping's divine sense. Even if he could sense it further away, it was still extremely vague. The northern Mara's army had crossed the river in large numbers, while the western Mara's army was heading east in large numbers. The intention of the Mara's army was already very clear. They were heading towards the Nine Profound Tower. Furthermore, if Lu Ping was not wrong, there were currently two groups of Mara's armies, one from the east and one from the south, working together with the other two groups to surround the Nine Profound Tower. This Mara's army was really going all out. Lu Ping's luck was evidently pretty good. Currently, he had been fleeing in the northwest direction for his life. Instead, he had fled all the way to the point where the northern Mara's army and the western Mara's army met. Without a doubt, this was because the two groups of Mara's army had suffered too much damage. Charge out, I must charge out. As the four sides of the Mara's army closed in, this area would gradually shrink and disappear. When that happened, Lu Ping would probably be trapped. Lu Ping had no time to worry about his internal injuries. The thin stream sword was like two green dragons that dove into the Qingming River. It alerted the Mara's army that was patrolling the river, and two Jade Shura came for Lu Ping. At this time, the Qingming River that Lu Ping was in was already upstream, and the river was getting more and more turbulent. But at this time, the entire Qingming River suddenly started to boil. As the two Jade Shura came for him in fear, the Qingming River under their feet suddenly rose by 3 feet. The entire Qingming River started to flow backwards. The Qingming River that the two sides of the Mara's army were combining to strengthen the two sides of the Mara's army. They did not expect Lu Ping to be able to use his own power to move the entire Qingming River. They were all shocked and they all fell back. The entire formation of the Mara's army was suddenly thrown into chaos. At this time, two green sword dragons emerged from the river, carrying the power of the Qingming River flowing backwards. They were coming for the two Jade Shura that were trying to kill Lu Ping. Before the two sword dragons even got close, their fierce power was already coming for the two Jade Shura. The two Jade Shura were scared before they could even fight. But how could Lu Ping's trump card be so simple? A giant praying mantis suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. Its two blades crisscrossed and slashed down like a pair of scissors. The two blades had already broken through the restrictions of space and were aimed at the two Jade Shuras. At the same time, the water ghost sword flashed a blue light in the air, and it appeared in the midst of the Mara's army, which had been thrown into chaos by Lu Ping. Every time the blue light flashed, a Mara would die. A rat jumped onto Lu Ping's left shoulder, its long tail coiled around a small copper hammer and swung it upwards. The copper bell that appeared above his head suddenly rang loudly, and the already disorderly battle formation was now in chaos. A few blood Mara wanted to come out and clean up the Mara army, but a loud voice shouted, "Kill them!" Lu Xiaoping took the lead. After Lu Ping had reached the mid-Dharma level, Lu Xiaoping's power had increased a lot, even though his training had not increased. At least this sudden attack was enough to put a few blood Mara in a difficult position. A jade demon had appeared behind the Mara army, and it suddenly spat in Lu Ping's direction. Lu Ping suddenly felt as if his will had been pierced by something like a nail. Lu Ping didn't mind it at all. His jade phosphorus soul fire flickered and the soul-devouring nail was instantly refined. The jade demon screamed in pain and saw a golden pung swooping down from the sky, its claws reaching for the jade demon's head. The jade demon hurriedly retreated and saw the golden pung suddenly explode in midair. It turned into a sky full of auspicious clouds that shrouded the entire sky. The jade demon wanted to use its divine art to counterattack, but it was suddenly blocked by the auspicious clouds in the sky. Its soul-devouring divine art was weakened by half every time it used it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.